It's another beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's a beautiful day for a draftmas. Won't you be my. Oh shit, I muted myself. My bad. I'm Jeremy Green. This is the Sportsocracy. As you can tell by my cartooned friend beside me, Tank is still in New York, which means I'm here all by my lonesome. Just talking about shit. It's draft day. I have been a horrible draft nerd. And I have not done the draft things the way that I'm supposed to. So we will be starting weekly draft things on Wednesdays. So when Chris Womack is in with Tank for me, I will be doing draft things that will go out either right before them or right after them. I haven't decided which one yet. I've got some friends that some of you know, Logan Paulson from the Washington Commanders, handful of others that are going to be joining me to do draft things because they are also draft nerds like me. Before we get into draft stuff, I do think we need to talk about last night. Bad Baker. Bad Baker showed up. Anybody? Anybody surprised that Bad Baker? No, none of us? Okay. It was insanely, and I did not think it was going to happen last night. Tampa Bay showed the flaws that I've been afraid were coming for quite some time because you can't be as reckless as Baker Mayfield is. He had not been, but it's kind of like a kid with a toy. You know it's coming back. I've seen you do this too many times. So I'm not jumping off a cliff about Tampa Bay. I think they went into a buzzsaw last night. They saw a really good Lions team that had to have that win after the last time we saw them in primetime against Kansas City. And I now to the bigger point for me, I think Detroit may have found two players that were working at GDS a week ago or delivering people's mail, or I don't know where those two dudes came from, but they were both just absolutely fantastic last night in the secondary. And if those two can be pieces, not even what they were last night, and you add that to DJ Reed coming back, if Rocky Sins was just a cramp thing last night, hopefully get Arthur Mole and send him into the sun because he is, God, he's awful. He used to play for the Jets, and every time I see him, I'm like, I hate your stupid face. But Nick Whiteside, Eric Hallett, both really, really good last night. And that gives me hope for the Lions. I had left the Lions at 1 for a reason, because I said the one thing the Lions had that nobody else had is that your problems can be solved by guys that are actively on your roster. That served to be incredibly accurate. The thing is, I didn't know who those two guys were. So that's a thing that happened last night. Detroit was really, really good. Lions fans should be really, really happy coming off last night. Tampa Bay, I know I'm going to make jokes solely because Baker's really easy to make fun of, especially when he's sitting there doing the 6-7 thing like, what the fuck, he missed the field goal. No, he didn't. No, he made it. You just can't see it because you're a goober that's 40 yards downfield. My wife got so tired of hearing about Baker Mayfield last night. She's like, could you just get all of this out at one time so I don't have to hear this again? But Tampa Bay didn't look good. Mike Evans done until very late in the season. I've heard it was collarbone. I've heard it was, what was the other thing I heard? There was another body part that I'm not 100% sure what he did, but Todd Bowles did come out and say it was collarbone. So he'll be done for quite a while. And Tampa Bay is finding a way to make me wrong about Emeka Egbuka in new and wild ways. Do you understand that now with Mike Evans hurt, it will be week 16 at the earliest before we see the problem that I thought would manifest itself with Mike Evans, with Chris Godwin, and with Emeka Egbuka? Just give it time. I'm telling you, there's only one football. There's 3 guys, and they all want it. The second game of the night, not a whole lot there. Good God almighty, Houston is awful. Houston Texan fans, I am sorry. I don't know that I've ever seen a team atrophy this bad. C.J. Stroud, he is who I thought he was. And I don't care how much pole glazing I heard from Dan Orlovsky or Louis Riddick last night. You put lipstick on a pig, it still goes Ree! And C.J. Stroud is bad. I saw there's an influencer on Instagram that has started a Madden franchise where he swapped C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. And as the more I've thought about that, I don't think that would have changed anything. We would have seen the bad out of C.J. Stroud earlier. We would have seen the deficiencies in C.J. and Bryce Young probably a little later, but it would have looked exactly the same. C.J. Stroud is bad at football. The Houston Texans are bad at running the ball. Nick Caley is bad at calling plays. Do you understand that last night they threw it 49 times? They ran it 17. In a game that was way closer than it should have been for the entire night. Just shocking. Shocking to say the least. Sam Darnold, he's my MVP. He's really good. He was not great last night. Really bad interception, really bad decision in the end zone that kept Houston around. But I just feel like Minnesota has to be looking at Sam Darnold right now going, what the fuck did we do? Every time they look at Carson Wentz and J.J. McCarthy, they have to be going, what the fuck did we do? At least that's what I'm doing. But that's what I was doing when you did it. That's my recap of last night. Usually we would do power rankings on a Tuesday. I did not do power rankings for today. I did mine last week. Not a whole lot changed. I have the ESPN power rankings up. I am going to quickly go through them and tell you the things that I think are comically stupid. They still have Philadelphia at 3, which I do not understand. I never thought I would say this. They're low on Kansas City. Kansas City at 7 is low. I mean, I'm a guy that's a huge Kansas City detractor, solely because I don't think you've beaten anybody. That is shockingly low to me. To have Tampa Bay still at 4 is still a little high. Green Bay's too high at 8. San Francisco's grossly too high at 10. I think they overreacted to Denver a little bit. Look, the first 3 quarters weren't good. Denver did something that no team in NFL history has ever done before. They're still too high on Pittsburgh at 13. I don't understand what it is that people are seeing in Pittsburgh. I don't understand how you're not seeing how bad this defense is. And Aaron Rodgers, it's fine. He can still throw dots in a bucket, but he's 1,000 years old. They really only have one receiver that worries you, and they don't have a running game that scares me in any shape, form, or fashion. I don't see it with Pittsburgh. Then we get into the teams that they have too low. I actually believe they have Dallas too low at 16. Another thing I did not think I would ever say. They pushed Jacksonville down to about where they should be at 17. Washington, I think, is too low at 19. I think Atlanta's too low at 20. How in the good graces of the almighty Lord do you have the Houston Texans at 21? If I had done a power ranking today, I would seriously have considered having the Texans at 30. The only teams that would have precluded me from that, the Jets and Dolphins are locked in at 32 and 31. That's not changing for the rest of the year. Short of one of them, I don't know, fires their coach and all of a sudden looks competent. The battle for 30 was the Tennessee Titans, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Houston Texans. I think they're too low on the Giants at 27. I still think they're too low on the Ravens at 26. Everything else looks about right. That was just my very quick takeaway on ESPN Power Rankings. Be sure to get your super chats in about draft questions. I'm going to go through the chat. If you were here yesterday, you know that it is very easy for me to get behind when I am doing this by myself. So get those super chats in to kind of keep me on pace. Also, be a little patient with me when it comes to reading super chats and then getting back to the chat because I had to find where I was. We have our first super chat of the day. It probably would help if I had buttons up, wouldn't it? Let's get to those. We always appreciate the super chats. Those we get paid for those on the 21st, and it always shocks me. Just the appreciation from you guys between the memberships. We have something new coming with the memberships that I'm going to announce with Tank on Friday. So if you're a member of the House of Reprehensibles, you have always asked that we did uncensored things, and now we are finally in a place where we can actually satiate that. So the price is not changing. All of that will stay the same if you're a member of the House of Reprehensibles. We will announce all of those things in full on Football Friday. Let's get to the super chat from Kevin Mullen, which means I feel like there's probably a Shanahanism coming. I don't want to click this button, but I'm going to. Oh my God, I hate that with the fire of 1,000 suns. Kevin with our first super chat of the day, it said, Kyle Shanahan says Tank was pissed regarding his last book he was reading. Waldo wasn't on the last page. Can you polish Seattle's defensive knob versus Houston? Yes, I can, because sweet baby God, that defense for Seattle is awesome. I don't think I even understood how good that defense was until I watched it last night looking around going, oh, you don't have your best corner. You're playing a slew of guys that are off the trash heap, and it doesn't matter. They just get pressure over and over again. And I understand Houston's offensive line sucks. But that Seattle defense, that might be the single best defense in the NFL. Somebody asked me yesterday which defense I trusted the most. After watching Seattle, it might be Seattle. Elliot Spencer, welcome to the House of Reprehensibles. We have cake. We're like an AA meeting for sports. Feel free to chuck your drug of choice into the chat. Mine now is Jackson Smith and Jigba. I am hammered on that dude. And from now on, it's funny that we're talking about draft things today, because I will never doubt an Ohio State receiver ever a freaking again. Randy L., welcome to the House of Reprehensibles. We will have Randy on some of our draft stuff this year. We're getting all those things situated. David, I have an open invite to David Smith. I don't know if he got wrapped up today. I have a sick wife, so that could also be on me. I've been trying to keep all those things in place. So if that's on me, I apologize. David, if you can hear me, you have an open spot behind Cartoon Tank if you have any availability today. Okay, back to JSN, though. The craziest part of last night was how badly he obliterated Derek Stingley. I have long been of the belief that I think Derek Stingley is a little bit overrated. Not that he's not good, but I think there are very few shutdown corners in this league. And I do think it's funny that over the course of the last 48 hours, we've seen two of them, Quinyon Mitchell of the Philadelphia Eagles and Derek Stingley of the Houston Texans, just get absolutely obliterated in games by a receiver we talk about a lot. Justin Jefferson was part of it. Jordan Addison was a lot of it. And then Derek Stingley just got eaten alive by JSN. Fun story. We talked about PFF and PFF grades. I guess it was yesterday. There's still a good metric, especially about positions that are hard to quantify. Would anybody like to take a guess among 112 graded corners, where is Derek Stingley right now? I'm going to leave that in the chat and see which one of you can come the closest, Price is Right style, closest to the nearest number without going over. There are 112 graded. First one to get within 5, I will give you the flowers. I was shocked to see this until I watched him last night. And I went, nope, not as shocked anymore. Dark Soldier went 72. Andreas Pinckney said 113. I'm only saying 112, but it could be 113. Matt Penn with the victory. Let's see if we have a... I don't know why I hit that, but let's go with that. Matt Penn with the win. He is 104 of 112 or 113. I'm not really sure which one. Derek Stingley has been a big old bag of turds, and nobody wants to talk about it, and I don't know why. There's something funny to me about corners, that once a corner is considered good in this league, it's really hard for people to ever come off of that. Sauce Gardner has been in this position for 2 years. I get it. He's fine. I don't think he's special. And he's horrific against the run. But you get these guys. Jalen Ramsey's been awful. Derek Stingley has been awful. Marshawn Lattimore has been awful. Reek Woolen has been awful. L'Jarius Sneed, Carlton Davis. There are Byron Murphy. There are so many of these guys that have been really, really, really bad. And nobody ever talks about it. And I think it's funny that, and Randy L. beat me to the punch, it's shocking how often it is that it's the year after they get paid. They get paid because Sauce Gardner just got paid. I think he's been good at times against the kind of receiver he's good against, and he's been really bad at times. And he's very, very grabby. Derek Stingley was brutal last night. JSN is a dog. Welcome into the program. Thank you to the new 2 House of Reprehensibles members, Elliot and Randy. You keep chucking those out there. We have an announcement about the House of Reprehensibles. We'll do that on Friday when Tank rejoins me in the Ingles studio. I'm going to start chugging through questions. If you have questions that you want answered right now, as I said, it can take a little while to get through the chat. You can super chat those out. We appreciate those at all times. Alex S. said, howdy, have a ton of questions. Jalen Kilgore is safety 2 in my mind. Why are people not seeing it? I don't think it's that people aren't seeing it. It's that Jalen Kilgore is a very specific kind of player. And if you don't know what we're talking about, he's one of those hybrid kind of corner safeties that plays at South Carolina. They put him outside from time to time. They play him at safety. He plays in the slot a lot. This year, he has played more in the slot than he plays in the box, which, if I remember correctly, when he first started, it was about a 50-50 split. Now he's playing more corner. The reason that people don't see it is because he's not a great coverage guy. And I'm afraid that, how do I explain this? Jalen Kilgore is one of those players that if he goes to the right team, I'm going to love him. Big-bodied, 6'1", 210 pounds, absolutely lays the hammer as a safety. The problem is if you try to play him in that Brian Branch role, there is a great possibility that this kid is never going to be anything above a mid-round guy. Because he's just not good in coverage. So you can play safety. I'll be honest with you, I see a little bit of Antoine Winfield in him at times when I watch him. Then I get into the same problem that I have with Antoine Winfield from time to time. He's not particularly good in coverage. And so if you can play him as just a dedicated box in a single high safety kind of defense, that's fine. He becomes an enforcer. He's going to be really good against the run. He's really going to make running backs pay when he comes downhill. The problem is that there's only so many of those safeties in this league, and there's only so many teams in this league that he fits with. So I will say I agree with you. I like him. I like him in a very specific spot. 2 is a little high for me. Because if you're telling me you have him as your number 2 safety, I'm just assuming Caleb Downs is your 1. At this point, I would be blown away if he wasn't. That means you have him ahead of Dylan Theinman, which I do not understand in any way. There are also a couple other guys. I really like Earl Little from Florida State, Rod Moore from Michigan. I don't understand how you got there. A.J. Halsey from LSU. I get liking him. I just think 2's a little bit high. But thank you, Alex, for that question. He has several more. Is David Bailey a top 15 pick? Yes. Point blank, yes, and I'm tired of fighting it. David Bailey was a guy that I talked about in the preseason of I do not understand how we're not talking about him more. Over the last 2 years, and again, this is PFF grade. It's not infallible, but it is a good point of reference. David Bailey is a top 10 edge rusher in America. That's across all levels of competition. And that's been at Stanford. That's been at Texas Tech. He has 26 hurries in 7 freaking games. He has 11 sacks and 11 quarterback pressures. This kid, pass rush win rate is 23%. True pass grade, true pass set pass rush grade is almost 95. I'll be honest, I'll go a step further. I don't just think David Bailey is a top 15 pick. I think David Bailey is a top 10 pick. And now I'm going to say something that this will be the first controversial thing I say of Draftmas. I believe that David Bailey and Reuben Bain are way closer to people than anybody wants you to think. Because Reuben Bain plays at Miami, which is a school that you watch and you see him hit quarterbacks, and then you realize who he's beating. This is not me saying I don't like Reuben Bain. I'm just saying when you watch the tape, I see a lot of similarities. I see a lot of similarities in how they win. I see a lot of similarities in how often they win. And then you compare the level of competition, and they're much closer than people want to let on. I like Reuben Bain. I think he is evaluated appropriately. I love David Bailey because I don't think anybody's getting him right. And that makes me like the guy more and more and more. Good question about David Bailey from Alex S. there. Another one from Alex. And then after this one, I'm going to try to get, just so it's not the same person asking questions. Alex, why is Keldrick Falk getting hyped as a twitched up 4-3 defensive end? One reason specifically, because of how damn big he is. Keldrick Falk, and I said this in the offseason, Keldrick Falk is going to be one of the hardest evaluations that any of us have ever done because we all know he's good. There's no doubt that he is good. He's way better as a run defender right now than he is as a pass rusher. His pass rush win rate is, it's not bad. It's just not specifically great. And I think it's because he's going to have to go to a very specific kind of team. Keldrick Falk, to me, strikes me as that guy goes to Tampa Bay and it works. Statistically, it'll never look great. From analytics, it'll never look great. But he's so big, he's so strong, and he's so good against a run, which gives you such a solid baseline. I don't know that he will ever be a great pass rusher. I've had issues with him for 2 years now. I watch him, and I want to love him, but I don't. And the more I watch him, the less I love him. I think he fits into I think he's a 3-4 defensive end. And I'm going to get ahead of that right now. I've thought that the entire time. I don't see a lot of guys at this size that become very good, very productive edge rushers in the NFL. Keldrick Falk right now is listed at 285 pounds. I'm just going to do a very quick search of graded edge rushers in the NFL. Of all of the ones that have been graded this year, and the total number is 113, there are 7 that are as heavy as him or heavier. Draymond Jones plays defensive tackle. Nick Scorton is not of this earth. I love him. I loved him then, and I love him now. Tyler Lacey, Deo Odingbo, Jahad Ward, who's bounced around like a ping pong ball, and he just has this kind of weird hybrid role. Cameron Jordan, and then two that Keon White and Jordan Burch. I don't have a lot of affinity for Jordan Burch. I have a lot for Keon White. They've played very similarly this year. It doesn't tend to work, and that's why he scares me a little bit more than the average prospect. That I'm not saying I think he's even evaluated incorrectly. I don't know how valuable that position is if I averaged it out across 32 NFL teams. Evan Doyle said Keldrick Falk is Shamar Stewart. I think Shamar Stewart is more athletic. I think Shamar Stewart's more freak. I think Keldrick Falk's a better football player. And now, there are some people that they really prioritize football IQ and usability and things like that. Teams like that are going to really like Keldrick Falk. Then I get to a team like, I hate to use my team, but it's the team I know the best. The New York Jets. Keldrick Falk will probably, they're going to pick number 1, so they're obviously not taking him there. I would wager they'd have a second-round grade on him because he's going to be a rotational defensive tackle for them. And I think that's going to affect where he gets drafted. Let's see. Sir Jimothy said, Fallis has several first-round picks. Can we use one for a new GM and one for a new owner? I wish you could. If you could, I'd trade the number 1 pick in this draft for Woody Johnson right now. Back to Alex S., who was the first one here. Why did Mateer fall? Are they holding the hand injury against him? Mateer is and he's talking about John Mateer, the quarterback from Oklahoma. Mateer is an interesting evaluation in that he's going to be kind of a dealer's choice prospect. Not everybody is going to be in on a quarterback that's that big. He's 225 pounds. But he's not super tall. And so you get into, can he stay healthy playing the way that he does, because he runs a lot. I don't think he's an elite thrower of the football. I think he's a good thrower of the football. And so then it gets into, for me, if you like John Mateer as a raw NFL prospect, I don't understand how you don't like Lenore Sellers. Because I see some of the same issues out of the two of them. Mateer is more polished. He's also 4 years older. And that, I guess that's where I fall with Mateer. I think he's going to end up being a late 1, early 2. And that may work out famously for him. I can't get away from the idea of him ending up with the Los Angeles Rams with that second first-round pick. He sits behind Stafford for a year, and they have the ability to develop him into that system. Certain guys fit certain places really well. I'm not going to say that – I don't think the industry has dropped Mateer so much as his play has kind of confirmed where a lot of us had him. We started talking about him going number 1 solely because quarterback in this class is so bad. I now don't really see a path that he can do that. Then last one here from Alex S. said, if the Panthers draft a quarterback in the second or third, who fits the scheme? In terms of what you're doing right now with Dave Canales, which quarterback would I like for Carolina? You're not going to like my answer here. The one that I would probably be leaning on, because look, this is going to be a team that runs, and I'll be honest with you, I don't hate the idea of Mateer, because this is going to be a team that runs really well. If you look at Carolina right now, the benefit of this team is that they're run blocking pretty well, especially against bad competition, and having Rico and, for whatever reason, Chuba being the head of that snake, I think that's their path to righteousness. I'm not sure that Bryce Young's not still better for all things involved than anybody they're going to get. I do not want to tie myself to a quarterback in this class unless I absolutely have to. Which gets me to a question that I don't think anybody's asked, but I'm going to answer it anyway. This quarterback class, I'm going to say this as nicely as I can. This quarterback class fucking sucks. And the more I dig into it, the less I like it. It is not as bad as the Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Sam Howell class, in that I think there's way more upside. Where I was down on that class is that not only do I not think any of these guys are starters right now, I don't think any of these guys can become starters. I don't feel that way this year because I do think you have a handful at the top that could come in and play right away. I don't know how well it's going to go off the jump. Fernando Mendoza, it really bothers me when I see him pressured, which he's going to be pressured playing in the NFL. Dante Moore feels like he's a year away. He's so young, but this class is so bad that I think there's a great chance he is going to come out. And then you get to Ty Simpson. And I've seen Ty Simpson as the number 1 pick in this class, and I'm gonna get in front of this right now. The Ty Simpson hype is going to be the same thing as Baker Mayfield, 8 years ago? I'm not telling you he can't be a quarterback in this league. I don't see the upside compared to back then it was Darnold and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. I did not understand, and Josh Rosen, who I had Baker ahead of Rosen, but that's because I hated Rosen. I did not understand how somebody could look at a quarterback that was built that way and played that way and said, I'm going to take that over the upside that I saw out of Sam Darnold, that I saw out of Josh Allen. I did not like Lamar Jackson, but I knew a lot of other people did. I didn't understand how anybody was with the number one pick going to go, yeah, that'll work. I just don't see it. I think Ty Simpson is a really, really good college quarterback. I do not really see a high-level NFL quarterback there. And then you get into do these guys come out or not? Lenora Sellers, Sam Levitt, Mateer. That's really about it. Because I'm not. Nussmeier's a senior, which is why I left him out. I don't really see it out of a lot of other guys. Jaden Mayava is going to be a kid we talk about a lot over the course of this process. All right, we're going to get back to some questions. Detroit Fan Man said, kind of bummed Tankin here to talk about my Lions. He will be with me on Thursday. He will be flying back tomorrow, and everything looks good for that. So keep your fingers crossed and your toes crossed and all the things, because air travel in America right now is kind of a bitch. But he'll be back with me for Thursday night football at Bear Smokehouse Barbecue, 135 Cox Avenue. We will be there all day. And this weekend we are doing Panthers-Bills in Charlotte. Also a possibility that I add a college game just solely because I want to see Billy Bryce. Not really because I care all that much about the game. Let's see. Evan Doyle. Jeremy, I heard what you said about the Bengals Jets. I'm still down for a charity bet. Just need to know your hat size and address of the studio. My hat size is a 7. It's either a 7 5/8 or a 7 3/4. Depends on how they run. Wool tends to be 7 3/4. Things like this, which is kind of hard to explain, it tends to be 7 5/8. I have a big ass head. The address of the studio is 13 Summerlin Road, Asheville, North Carolina, 28806. And if you put my name on it, it'll come right to us. I will put that in the chat because I get asked that about once a day. I haven't been in the studio for 2 days. I got a message from our sales director this morning that said, "You're ordering a lot of shit." And my response was, I didn't order a damn thing. Wasn't me, but it's sent to us. And there is address in the chat. Okay, Alex S. asked, is Great North joining? I do not know where my... Oh, there's my phone. I'll see if he has said anything. He has a spot, though. Okay, we're going to have to take a quick break because we have an issue. I will be right back. Okay, sorry about that. We had no sound on ESPN radio, and I always love when people send that message to me like, I don't know what you want me to do about that because I don't know how to fix that. That is not a me thing. But Tank is at the Freedom Tower and told me to tell everyone, hello. He's doing the 9/11 memorial thing in New York right now. Okay, let's see. We have a super chat from Kevin Mullen. Says Kyle Shanahan says alcohol is more socially acceptable in public than milk. I own number one waiver this week. Is it Brashard Smith? Alec Pierce is also there. The thing that would worry me about Alec Pierce is that there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, and he's just so inconsistent. If you're all the way down to Brashard Smith, that means it's a pretty deep league. Oronde Gadsden would be really high on mine. There are a lot of, I think there are a lot of better. But if you're that deep, then Brashard Smith's a pretty good dart throw, solely because Kansas City's been so bad running the ball. They are terrible. So I could see, if you're that deep, then yeah, I could see Brashard Smith being the answer. Let's see. Randy L. said Jared Wilson's bribe money ran out this week, so they finally assigned him his 2 sacks. Jugtown. Draftmas seems to come sooner and sooner every year. It does. This is the second year in a row we've had to basically take off 2 weeks in the middle of the season because Tank was otherwise needed in other places. So that's one of the reasons we're starting so early this year, but also because I just didn't want to I didn't want to be as far behind as I was last year when we started in January. Andreas Pinckney said, all I want for Draftmas is Bain and an extra receiver. Maybe Chris Bell or the kid from Indiana. That would be Surratt, who I like. I like that kid a lot. The more I've watched of his tape, the more I don't know exactly where he fits in the NFL, but I know he fits in somewhere. And Elijah Surratt. I knew it. I couldn't get his name come to me. I like the body size. There's a lot to like about Elijah Surratt. I love Chris Bell. I'll be honest with you. I love this receiver class. This receiver class will get a lot of flack because it's a kid from Arizona State up high, Mekhi Lemon from USC who's smaller. I like Carnell Tate. I like Denzel Boston. I like Chris Brazil. I like Deion Burks. I mean, there's a lot to like in this receiver class. Jeremy Bernard is the one that he will do the thing that a receiver does every single year. If he will fall to a spot that does not make any sense, and he will wind up being really, really good. Matt Penn asked, how'd the Texans fall off this bad? Because their offensive line sucks, and so does their quarterback. Randy Hill, I don't get how Houston has so many receivers and they still have Braxton Berrios on the field. That's a good damn question. I'm not going to lie to you. That is a good damn question. Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, Christian Kirk, Xavier Hutchinson, you're still playing Braxton Berrios. It's a very confusing staff. Timothy O'Toole, should Bobby Slowick get better looks at head coaching positions now that Stroud has regressed so much? I'll be honest with you. I never really thought Bobby Slowick was the problem. He caught a lot of flack, and I didn't really think it was all that. I didn't think it was all that justified. The problem with Bobby Slowick is he's in Miami now. And so you're not going to catch much love coming off that passing. And he's the passing game coordinator too, that's not going to help you much. I think he will recycle through, and I do think he'll be a coordinator again one day. Sir Jimothy, unpopular opinion I have, the staggered Monday night football on last night's time frame is better than the 30-60 minute difference. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I hate the hour between games, especially when you go to one of those games and you cannot get out of the stadium fast enough to see the bulk of the second half. I jetted out of Mercedes-Benz Stadium, went to a bar that was right beside my hotel, which was maybe a tenth of a mile down the street, 2/10 at most, and I still only saw the last 9 minutes of the second half. I agree. I don't mind the staggered start. A lot of East Coast bias comes up and says, well, it's too late for me. Okay. I mean, then you go to bed. It's fine. It makes more sense for the rest of us to have those two games staggered where we can see them both as opposed to playing them on top of each other. Alex S. said the Panthers with Drake May would be 7-0, and that makes my brain hurt. Would they be 7-0? I don't know that I agree. Well, in that scenario, you're taking him away from New England, which is the team that beat the hell out of you. Yeah, you may not be wrong. I liked Drake May a lot, and I still like Drake May. Stephen Tao said the Ravens will be single digits in 2 weeks. That's probably too quick. Solely because you got to understand 2 weeks from now they'll still be 3-5. And you'll still be looking around the AFC going, God, you cannot miss. But Baltimore doesn't have to win out, but they have to win every single game they're supposed to just to make the playoffs. Randy L. So to start with quarterbacks, am I crazy to think I might have Maava in my top 5? A lot of production, few INTs, few errors, and good yards per reception. Not a great O-line either there, right? Good weapons, though. Yeah, he's got 2 really good receivers, Lemon and Lane. Are you crazy? No. He's big-bodied. I mean, somebody's going to fall in love with him. I'm not as wild about him, just solely because I don't know how replicable his game is to the NFL. But he's also one that I need to. One of the reasons I've been pretty good with quarterbacks is that I can dissect them with light tape, and I have not done that yet. So I can't go as deep on Maava as I would like to. I'm not in love with him yet, but I reserve the right to change my mind. Sir Jimothy said if Fallis is ranked higher than 28, they're wrong. Our defense is single-ply toilet paper. It's not good. Your defense is not good. Randy L. Also, McShay has a take on Drew Aller. His accuracy says he needs to see the numbers. Struggles throwing at receivers running away from him. What's your take on that? I don't like Drew Aller. I never have. He's always one of those that he looks like he should be an NFL quarterback, but he doesn't play like he should be an NFL quarterback. It also really bothers me that some of his worst tape comes in the absolute most crucial times. Aller's got the height, the weight, the speed, the arm. I don't think he has the brain, and I don't think he has it. And whatever you want to quantify it as, he does not have it. Alex S. Byron Murphy is D-line number 1. Him, and Derek Brown's up there right now. I mean, there are a lot of really good defensive tackles. Byron Murphy's certainly one of them. Derek Brown's certainly one of them. I don't know that I can go that they're number 1, that I would have them at 1. There's a lot of really good defensive tackles in this league. Oh, who would I have? Who would I have that high? That list, in no specific order. Derek Brown's up there. Jeffrey Simmons is up there. Quinnen Williams is up there. Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams. And Leonard Williams might be the reason that I don't give as much credit to Byron Murphy. I shouldn't do that. I'm just saying that might be why I do that. Byron Murphy, DeForest Buckner, Vita Vea. Vita almost belongs in his own separate category. Yeah. It's not an insane take, though. I think it's a little high on Murphy, but I get it. Dark Soldier with a question I knew was coming. Who should the Jets draft at 1? Would any team want to trade for the first pick with this quarterback class? I'm glad you asked that. The problem with this class is that I don't think you're going to get the bounty at 1 because I don't think anybody's trading up to get a quarterback. I think if you're trading up that high, you're trading up that high to get Reuben Bain or Caleb Downs. And I just don't think you're going to get that kind of haul for a safety. I mean, Caleb Downs is my number 1 player in this class. He is out of this world good. I know he hasn't been as good this year, but that's a really high bar. Reuben Bain is an elite edge rusher. There are still questions about him. This is not like Von Miller. You know, when Von Miller came out, nobody had questions about him. They knew he's going to be an absolute animal. And like I said, I really like Reuben Bain. I don't think Reuben Bain turns into Aiden Hutchinson, where he's just unblockable because he had some injury issues. He's not as long as you would want him to be, and he's not a great tackler in space. I think he can be a wrecking ball. I just don't know that he's good enough that teams are going to go, oh, we're going to give up 5 picks to get up to 1. I don't see that happening. Alex S., Carnell Tate love. I certainly do love Carnell Tate. The question is how much and where does he fit in amongst what I think is going to be a really deep receiver class. I will have a round 1 grade on him, I feel very sure. The question is, do I let past, and I'm not going to say misses. I liked JSN and I liked Emeka Buka. I didn't know they were going to be as good as they are. Is that going to skew me? It's just one of those things that I have to sit down and go, okay, I have to look at this tape for what this tape is. And Carnell Tate's been phenomenal. I have to look at it with different eyes than I did with Ibuka. But there is definitely love there. Like I said, I'm never going to doubt an Ohio State receiver ever again. Kevin Mullen, JSN number 1 pick for fantasy next year. I think that's going a little far. But, man, Sam Darnold really does only have eyes for him. I think he's first-round pick. I just don't think he's number 1. Let's see. Jimothy said he's always down big guest. We'll take you up on that. I will say I think this is our last run of it not being Tank and I until we get to the offseason. Randy L. is the best connection in the NFL. Darnold to JSN. Does it have anything at all to do with Darnold? I think it has a lot to do with Darnold. I think Darnold's a really good quarterback. He had a couple throws last night that were just absolute dots in the bucket. But then he has the, oh shit, what did you just do? The fumble in the end zone, the really bad interception when it's the only thing he couldn't do. It is a very good, very high-end, very elite connection. I do think I think Seattle's so good. But I probably give more credit to the defense and JSN even than I do to Darnold, and I'm the Darnold apologist. Gary Birch, pass defense is illegal. It pretty much is at this point. Kevin Mullen, LSU corners are overrated. I agree with you, except when it comes to the one in this class. I love Mansour Delane. I talked about him a lot in the offseason. I just don't understand why anybody would throw at him. He's so good. He's so flexible because he can play man or zone. Delane will be one of those guys that does not go as high as he should, solely because this class is so good. It's so good at the top in that it's very deep and has a pick your poison. If you're looking for a receiver, we've got a couple. If you're looking for an edge, we've got a couple. If you're looking for a defensive tackle, we got a couple. The quarterbacks aren't necessarily there, but then you get the corners. And I struggle. If Jermod McCoy comes back and looks as good as he did, I struggle to see how anybody would take Delane over him. Then you get into the Avion Terrell. There are actually several corners in this class, which I think might push him down. But I do like Delane, even though LSU corners do tend to be overrated. Timothy O'Toole said Christian Gonzalez ranked 50th by PFF right now, but I think that's a scheme thing. New England is one of the ones that I will say is very hard for PFF to get right because it's just different. I have not looked at Gonzo today. They tend to update this on Tuesdays. Gonzo's up to 36. He's only played 4 games. The low snap count is one of the things that can really burn you because if you have just a handful of bad snaps, it shoots you through the floor. I think he will get better in time and rise up there because, Christian Gonzalez is a top 10 corner in this league. And it's obvious that once he came back, that defense got right. Stephen B. Jeremiah Smith should sit next year like JSN did. JSN played his last year. No, I'm never a fan of you should sit. And I'll be honest with you, I know this is not an apples-to-apples comparison. Look at what's happening with Terry McLaurin right now. It is so different being on a football field. It is so different getting live reps. It is so different than anything you can simulate, anything you can do in a gym or anything like that. I don't want to see guys do that. Now, if anybody was going to do it, it could be Jeremiah Smith. I also think Jeremiah Smith is one of those that, are you sure you're not going to just petition the NCAA? JSN played 3 games his senior year. I think wasn't he hurt? I thought he got hurt his junior year. I could be wrong on that. Stephen may be right on that. Randy L., I'd love to see the correlation between guys who just waited out in college like Stingley did and guys who suck after they ink their big deal. They are good in contract. Then are good in contract seasons. That is a very interesting. That would be an interesting correlation. We got a long time in Draftmas, so I could easily see a path that I get there. Evan Doyle said Jamar sat and Stingley sat. Jamar didn't. This is a great time for me to say, once a guy gets drafted, it kind of goes out of my head. Yeah, Jamar got drafted in 2020. He had the 2 years. Just verifying there. Let's see. And Dark Soldier, back to your question about who the Jets should draft at 1. Right now, it'd be Fernando Mendoza right now. Or it would be Fernando Mendoza or Dante Moore. Both scare me for very different reasons. Mendoza is really bad against the blitz. And Dante Moore just looks a little skittish. I want him to get more reps. And I know whoever the Jets draft is going to play immediately. Gary Burt said, Redskin Twitter's hated Lattimore since he came over. I believe that. He's pretty easy to hate because you watch him and just go, sweet baby, God, he is terrible. Evan Doyle, DJ Turner would like a word about bad to good. I could see that. That's another one of those Cincinnati's defense is so bad that it's hard to give anybody credit for anything. DJ Turner's been fantastic this year. But in terms of getting the recognition on a bigger scale, as long as that defense is that bad, he's not going to get the love that he deserves. Let's see. Putting in work said Kilgore's 41, talking about Jalen Kilgore, 41 in his rankings, number 2 overall strong safety. I have him lower than that, but he's still a guy I like. John Carmen, no more Darrelle Revis in the NFL. No, Revis Island is dead. Gavin Mullen piggybacked on that. So Revis Island was the last uncharted territory. Every corner is just an isthmus. I don't know what an isthmus is. I know what Christmas is, but that word, that's one of those vocabulary words that I was sleeping or trying to fuck the girl sitting next to me. I didn't catch that one. But good point, Kevin and Carmen. Rivas was the last really shut down. You have no shot at him corner. And even with Rivas, that only lasted a handful of years. He went to Tampa Bay. He was nowhere near as good as he was in New York. Randy L., back to quarterback. Folks are excited about Talon Green, but I see an older prospect with poor completion percentage. What do you see? Talon Green's a funny one to me because I have heard very little hype about him. I like him a lot as a college quarterback, but I do agree with you on some of the things you said there. I think he's one of the guys that can really dupe you because he is 23 years old. And if you really break him down, he had a really good game against Alabama A&M. He was middling at best against Ole Miss. He was fine against Tennessee, and Notre Dame was a disaster. That doesn't instill confidence to me. To me, Talon Green looks like the guy you take a stab on in the 6th or 7th round and just hope you catch lightning in a bottle. I'm not jumping up and down about him, that's for sure. Just making sure our radio issue is satiated. Putting in work said Talon Green does pop when you factor in the Bill Parcells quarterback rankings, but he needs to land on a team that oh no, he's talking about Kilgore right there. Yeah, Talon, he checks a lot of boxes on the Parcells thing, and I'm not saying that I don't. I'm not saying that I don't adhere to that. I think it needs to be tinkered. I actually did that last year or last season. And I need to do a video at some point about that. I'll put that on the list of things to do with our draft miscoverage. Randy L., is Haynes King a day 3 sleeper worth keeping an eye on? Not only is he a legit running threat, but 70% completion percentage, 14-1 touchdown to interception ratio, nearly 8 yards per attempt are numbers that interest me. The problem with Haynes King for me is the medical on him's got to be just unbelievable. With all the hits he's taken, is he a guy to keep an eye on? Sure. I mean, I think this is a weird draft class in that I don't know who's going to come out, obviously. I don't think Haynes King projects as a plus thrower. And then you get into okay, does Darian Mensah come out? Because if Darian Mensah comes out, that's one that I want to talk about. I don't think he will, but I think he could. Yeah, for me, I've got Haynes King down there with Rocco Becht and Devin Dampier, and could they be gimmicky guys? Sure. I don't ever see those guys work out, so I'm not very excited about it. He's fine, but there's nothing special to me. Putting in work, Caleb Downs is the number 1 player in this draft, and I will stand on that hill. I'm standing on it too. And he's, as a matter of fact, since Jeremiah Smith can't get into this class, he's in concrete for me. Joshua Brooks, any receivers in the 2nd round you like? Well, I'm mighty glad you asked that. So the way I've broken down receiver, I think you're going to get Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate in round 1. Then you get to the part where I really like Jacoby Lane to a lesser point than probably the other names I'm getting ready to say right here. I like Chris Bell out of Louisville. That name has become so popular in the last handful of days. And I guess it was just the Miami game that people hadn't gotten eyes on him because Louisville football doesn't necessarily rate the way that other good programs do. I'm really fond of Chris Brazil out of Tennessee. Big body. I think he's going to run pretty quick, and he just boxes guys out. Same thing with Denzel Boston, another big receiver that I'm really fond of. Nick Harbor, I don't think comes out. I think Lenoris and Harbor both have to come back to school. And this is going to piss off South Carolina fans, but I really wish they were coming back to a school that wasn't South Carolina. I like Jeremy Bernard as well. Um, I mean, I'm looking through my rankings right now, and I think there are, God, 20 receivers in this class, or maybe more, that I think can be real dogs, depending on who comes out. There are a few others that I'm not as wild that they come out now. Nick Harbor would be one of those. Moabdi, Jeremy, do you think acquiring quarterbacks after their first contract from terrible situations is the new meta, like Baker, Darnold, Jones, than what was previously thought about quarterbacks on a rookie contract? That's an interesting question. The problem is that for something to be the new normal, it has to be replicable. And so I'm going to pull up quarterbacks from just the history of quarterbacks here in the last 5 years. Boop. All right, so going back to the Jones year, which was 2019, if I remember correctly. All right, so you had Baker, Sam, Josh, Lamar in 2018. So we've already passed that. You've got Daniel Jones here, Drew Lock. That doesn't really count for me. Then you go into the next year. Joe's already been paid. Tua's been paid. Justin Herbert's been paid. Jordan Love's been paid. Jalen Hurts been paid. So you're not going to get anything there. 2021 jumped the shark because Zach Wilson's already been cut. Trey Lance has been cut. Justin Fields has been cut. Mac Jones has been cut. They're all getting second chances. I mean, Mac is probably the closest, solely because now I think he's finally found the offense that he fits into. I will say I think there is a great chance that one of these desperate teams for a quarterback overpays Mac Jones this offseason. Because they're going to see what he's done in San Francisco and go, we can – no, you can't. No, you can't because it's not there. Zach Wilson just got demoted for Quinn Ewers. Trey Lance, there's really nothing there I saw in the preseason. And Justin Fields is a fucking abomination. The only one that I see in the offing that could be Anthony Richardson if a team was willing to be really patient. I don't think Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud are getting big deals from the Panthers or the Texans. So they could be there. I think it's more anecdotal evidence of look at the three teams that Baker, Daniel, and Sam were drafted by. The Browns, who have a history of just crushing quarterbacks. The Jets, who have a history of crushing quarterbacks. And the Giants, who had Eli Manning for a million years. Other than that, there's not a great lineage of quarterbacks in Giant history. I am more of the belief now that it matters more where you're drafted than who you are. I think a good quarterback will work in any situation. Great quarterback will work in any situation. I think all of these guys are good to great prospects, but I don't know that anybody can work with the Jets. I don't know that anybody can work with the Browns. I don't know that anybody can work with the Giants. You know, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a little scared about Jackson Dart because I'm looking at what more could you possibly want from him, and your defense gave up 33 freaking points in the fourth quarter, which is pushing Brian Daboll out the door, and you know that thing I say about two offensive systems in your first 2 years. Randy L. Putting together my quarterback top 10, I've got Aller and Nuss low. How low should they be? If you're talking about overall rank, I mean, I'll be putting out my top fives tomorrow with the mock draft. Speaking of which, tomorrow at noon, mock draft Wednesday, right here, we'll be doing all the things with the first round mock draft of the year. In terms of how low you should have them in the top 10, right now, in terms of quarterbacks, I have Mendoza, Moore, Simpson, Levitt, Mateer, all above Nussmeier. Not necessarily in that order. If Sellers were to come into this draft, I would have him ahead of Nussmeier. I probably have Maava ahead of him. I probably have Carson Beck ahead of Drew Aller. Aller just does nothing for me. So, I mean, I'll be honest with you, having them both around the 10 spot sounds about right to me. Nussmeier was one I never bought into, but I do look at Nussmeier and go, you know, if you put him in the right situation, He could also get pressed down because Brian Kelly, who I don't think is, he's just not a great coach. Randy L, what is your top 5 quarterbacks? That was the names I just said. Not in that order. I'll release the order tomorrow. How does the current list compare to the list you might have had 2 months ago? So I was higher on Mendoza and Moore than probably anybody I've seen. I also do a lot with recruiting. I do a lot with the transfer portal too. So I had seen those two previously. I remember Dante Moore coming out of high school, and Mendoza I had seen this past year. So mine probably doesn't look as radically different. You also got to remember I was a big Drew Aller detractor, and I was the Cade Klubnik detractor. I didn't like Cade Klubnik at all. I thought he was an absolute joke. I got into so many arguments about Cade Klubnik, and I have sent that little smiling SpongeBob meme. I've sent that about 1,000 times. Oh, Austin Groves. Who are the two best interior offensive linemen in this class? This is an interesting O-line class, in that it's just not great. I like Jake Slaughter a lot. I saw somebody in the chat, I think it was maybe Evan Doyle, that was not as wild about him as I am. I think he is a shiny diamond in the midst of a big old turd. I like him a lot. I also don't love this interior offensive line class. So Slaughter for me he's up there. I need to see, who is it that, I think it was Doyle that said something about Slaughter. I really wish I knew where that was. I know it's there somewhere, and it's going to piss me off. Anyway. Damn, there we go. I got to find my place back in the chat now. I don't think this is a very good center class. Obviously, tackle, we all know. You know, it's Malga, Fanu, the two Utah guys. One of them's name is eluding me right now. Lomu and Fanu. I kept wanting to call him Gano. No, it's not Graham Gano. He's a kicker. I still like Isaiah World. I kind of like this Dunker kid from Iowa, too. I have not done a ton on his tape, but I kind of like him. Getting back to the interior, Caden Green, to me, we're doing this again. We're doing it again, and it's Armin Mimbu, and he's not as good as Mimbu. And so I am going to be all over that over the course of the offseason. Reed Adams from Texas A&M is one that I like quite a bit. I think he's going to end up being my sleeper. There's a kid named Brian Parker from Duke that I like a lot too. I've watched more Duke tape than I'm proud of. I've watched more Duke tape at this point than I've watched of Penn State because Penn State just pisses me off. Every time I put on Penn State tape, I've turned it off within 8 plays. Let's see. Oh. There we go. Let's see. Wait a minute. Lots of people get excited about Sawyer Robertson, even just as a day 3 pick. That 61% completion percentage scares me. What's your take on that? I'm not as wild about him. Evan Doyle comped him to Andy Dalton. And I think he can be a good backup. I started hearing the Heisman hype with him, so I started watching the tape. I started watching, and anybody that listens to the Bangers knows that I have bet Baylor more times than you shake a stick at. So I have watched more of those games than I ever wanted to. And I see a big kid that is not necessarily a great decision maker, and he seems to be check down Charlie. He's really good against the blitz. But he's really good against the blitz in the Big 12. So you're not getting great talent on the backside. To me, Sawyer Robertson's a backup. He's a name you're going to hear a lot through the process, and he'll be a kid that gets drafted in the 5th or 6th round when we get to April. Doyle said, I pray a non-quarterback needy team takes him. That's where I think he will fall in as the backup, the long-term backup behind a solid quarterback. Putting in work said he'll take Kamara over David Bailey. That is one that is a discussion I did not see us having today. I that's a okay. I don't dislike Kamara, and he's talking about Mikhail Kamara from I was just talking about Indiana. He's a little short for me, and I'm not in love with. If I was going to lose my shit about a shorter defensive lineman this year, it would be R. Mason Thomas from Oklahoma. That's the one I look at and go, man, I like that kid a lot. And we all know I don't love Oklahoma. I have more of a second-ish round grade on Kamara. I think he's been good. His pass rush win rate is really high. The problem is that I start looking at Indiana really outside of Iowa and Oregon hasn't really played anybody. And Kamara, he was good in those games, but he wasn't great. And I think he's a total situational pass rusher because he's too small. He's just short-armed, 6 foot tall kid. So, Workman, you and I, we will have to have that discussion on a day that we can get you on this here stream. Let's see. Stephen B. asked if Shamar's been good so far for Cincinnati. Evan Doyle said he has. He's just been injured, so he's missed 4 games. Randy L. Mendoza is currently my top quarterback. Great completion percentage, 21-2 touchdown interception ratio, nearly 10 yards per reception. It's just all good. Shoot some holes in his game for us. He's really bad against the blitz. I mean, and I hate to keep reiterating that. That's the number one hole I've found in his game is that I am afraid he becomes the kid. He's super tall. I do not love tall quarterbacks, and one of the reasons that I don't love tall quarterbacks, and when I say tall, for me, there's a range. I'm looking for 6'2 to 6'3.5, maybe get all the way to 6'4. The motion seems to be really elongated with a lot of these guys. And the thing that bothers me about Mendoza, the reason that I'm not comfortably putting him at 1, he may very well be my 1 tomorrow, you'll have to tune in and see, is that he's one of the tallest kids I've ever seen that doesn't have a high-end deep ball arm. And he gets sacked a lot. I think he's a good prospect, and that's about as good as I can say about any quarterback in this class, is that I think he's good and has the opportunity to succeed in the right spot. The problem that I have with Mendoza is I think he's going to go really high, and he's going to go to a team that probably doesn't have the greatest weapons and probably doesn't have the greatest offensive line. And that is 2 of the biggest knocks that I have on him, is that he doesn't have that big over-the-top arm that's going to keep the pressure off of you, and he's not great against pressure. Stephen Tao said Tank looks like grown-up Bobby Hill in that cartoon picture. I had not noticed that. Now I can unsee it. Putting in work, this quarterback class will get coaches fired and GMs and a lot of scouts. Evan Doyle, have you ever seen Bobby and Tank in the same room before? I have not. And now I can't unsee that shit. I'll send that to Tank and be like, did anybody ever tell you look like Bobby Hill all grown up? Stephen B., should we ever expect a class to have more than 2 or 3 desirable starting quarterbacks? Ooh, this is a rant. This is a rant that I need a shot of Monster for. You know who I blame for that? Me. Me and all the others like me. Because we are trying to get your eyeballs, because we all want to do this for a living. I am lucky enough that ESPN and Ingles and all the people behind us make it to where I can do this for a living. There are a lot of other guys that I talk to a lot that are just desperately trying to get views and clicks, and anybody, please, God, send your people to my shit. I don't do that. If you've ever noticed, our growth has always been organic. I've never paid for a viewer. I've never paid for any of that shit because, frankly, it doesn't change. I would rather have, I think we have 6,500 people on this channel now. I would rather have 6,500 really engaged people that are going to actually have good conversations like the one we're having right now as having 20,000 people watch my shit and have 4 comments. That's where I'm at. I would rather have, there are a lot of guys that I have talked to that are in this chat that I think you could do this for a living. And this year, I'm going to give all of you the opportunity. Because if for nothing else, I've gotten real curious. I think that the draft has become such a big thing. The draft is now the second most popular thing we do in sports. The NFL and college football are unfettered one. The draft is the one combination of the two. It's the second most popular thing we do. It beats baseball. It beats the NHL. It beats a shit out of the NBA. It beats the shit out of the NBA head to head. That you get a lot of people that are going, "Ooh, that's my pathway into sports." Well, what sells? Breaking down the tape of the Utah offensive line to show how the foot set and the knee drop of Caleb Lamu and Spencer Fanu, or talking about this is the quarterback that's going to save your franchise. The latter sells way better than the former. And every year I've been doing this, I've watched more and more and more quarterbacks wind up in this hopper, and a lot of them don't make any sense. Because there are guys, Cade Klubnik never made sense. I genuinely, I honestly, and I believe what I'm going to say, and if this hurts somebody's feelings, I'm sorry. If you watched Cade Klubnik's tape and you saw a franchise quarterback in him, you need to learn how to watch tape better. And I'm not trying to be a dick. There are a lot of guys that I really respect in this industry that did it. But I think they did it, and they were sitting there poking themselves in the eyes, ignoring all of the red signs and stop signs and red flags that they were blowing through. Cade Klubnik sucks on ice, and he has sucked on ice the entire time he's been at Clemson. But I think what Steven said there about should we expect there to be more than 2 or 3, no, but that's really disconcerting for the team picking at 7. And so you got to keep that fan base ingratiated, and you got to hype up some of these quarterbacks. And I'm not going to lie to you. I think we've seen quarterbacks that were drafted because of it. I think J.J. McCarthy got drafted because the hype on him was so insane. Because there were so many people that fell in love with him. That's another one. I don't think it was all that hard to see. Michael Penix, it was not all that hard to see. Bo Nix is a really old quarterback that, in terms of prospect, that can run. And he's pretty bright from everything I've ever been told. And he's a coach's kid, and he grinds the shit out of film, and he just finds ways to beat you. That doesn't mean he's an elite franchise quarterback. Desirable starting quarterback. I like that term that Steven used. Sorry for the little rant there. This is something I've been wanting to get off my chest for about 6 months now since we were at the last draft. Let's see. Andreas Pinckney, I don't want to see my Saints take any quarterbacks in this year. I don't disagree with you. I'd be trying to trade for Tanner McKee if I were you. But I've been saying that for 8 months now. Putting in work, Dante Moore needs to spend a year or two with a clipboard in his hands if he comes out this year. And the thing is, it's not going to happen. I think Dante Moore needs to spend another year in college. But I really don't see a way he's not going to come out. Because his agent's going to go, you do understand there's no way you fall past 5. None. Physically impossible. Evan Doyle said, same for Lenoris. Putting in work said, Lenoris needs a quarterback coach. I agree with you. Lenoris is regressing, and it bothers me. I've known Lenoris for quite some time. He bounced around the circuit up here, and so I actually have friends that are very good friends with Lenoris Sellers, and I root for the kid hard. I mean, I saw him in a quarterback camp in Greenville, South Carolina 3 years ago, and I remember thinking, my God, that kid's got everything. He's got everything you could ever want. That was at a Donovan McNabb camp. Lenoris has got a lot of talent. He just needs to be developed. And that's what Randy said. Sellers needs development also. Is he best to get that development in college or sitting behind someone in the NFL? I'm going to level. We don't develop quarterbacks in the NFL. It's one of the great misnomers of the 21st century to me. And if you don't believe me, name me the quarterback that's been developed. I'll wait. The guy that came in and was just super raw, and he needs to be developed, and he actually developed. Malik Willis, not even close. Matt Corral, threw that baby out with the bathwater as quick as we could. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Kellen Mond. I'm literally just going down the list. The NFL is lead, follow, or get the fuck out of the way. We do not develop these guys. Am I saying we should? Absolutely. But we don't. And that does worry me. We need to get better at developing quarterbacks. And now here comes the other side of that sword. Any guy that becomes known as one that can develop quarterbacks is going to be a head coach in no time flat, and he's got to find one immediately. Because 9 times out of 10, if a coach gets fired, it's because he doesn't have a quarterback. So then you get the Brian Daboll that has to find his quarterback. He tries to shoehorn in Daniel Jones. He punches himself in the head trying to do that for 5 years. Then they take the first quarterback they can find in Jackson Dart, and they just got lucky that he's good. Very easily, that could have been a quarterback that wasn't good. And it's hard to develop a quarterback that's not even good. Oh, YouTube crashed on me. Apologies. Let's see. Be sure to get those super chats in. I'm about halfway, I would say, through the comments. If you got a question you want answered now, you can always do that with the super chat. Oh, shit. I think I lost part of the chat, which is not good. Okay, so if you put in a comment that's above Randy L talking about running backs, I cannot see it anymore. Yep, I cannot see any of that. So if you had a question in there, it's not that I'm skipping you. It's YouTube just crashed out, and I can no longer see it. So we'll start at the top there with Randy L. Okay to running back. I haven't gotten deep into the class yet. Jeremiah Love. There's how deep into the class you really need to be at this point. But I really like Jonah Coleman. I feel like Katron is similar but faster. They've both been good this year. Who do you like more and why? So running back's an interesting position because it is so damn clear who the one is. Then you start battling for what order do you put him in back behind that. Jonah Coleman is so fucking short that it is hard for me. I don't like really teeny tiny running backs. He's a bowling ball, and I think I'm trying to even think of a good comp to him. I think he will have a place in the NFL. I will go ahead and tell you, I do not have him as high as you think. I don't. I love Nick Singleton. I have loved Nick Singleton for years. He is my 2. Katron Allen is my 4 behind Justice Haynes. And Justice Haynes is even tough for me. He's so good between the tackles. I don't love running backs like that because I don't know that he can do a whole lot else. The one that I find myself drawn to is Wisner from Texas. The more I watch him, the more, and there's another one that's real little that we'll talk about in a minute. I find myself really drawn to that kid because I think he can do a lot of things. I'm dumbfounded by Mekhi Hughes. How he wound up as the 5 on that depth chart, I will never understand. Kind of like I don't understand how Jaden Ott hasn't gotten any more traction than he has. The one that's really intriguing to me, and I don't hear many people talk about it, is Desmond Reed. Kid out of Pittsburgh, 5'8", about $175, and you watch him run, and you would think that kid is so much bigger than he is. I watched him against Florida State, and I was just dumbfounded of they can't do shit with him. They cannot do a damn thing with him. And I like him a lot. Now, as for the question that you asked me, which one do I like better, Jonah Coleman? I like Katron Allen better. I am always reticent when it gets into, well, we got a running back that's really short. He's heavier than you want him to be. And I don't think he's going to run all that fast. Those guys do not tend to work out in this league. And Randy L. said, I like Coleman because he got that bowling ball. He does, and people say that every year. And then those guys do not tend to work out. They get to the league and they just get blown over solely because you're a short, squatty bowling ball. You're going up against dudes that are 6'4", 270. So, you're bouncing off 175-pound corners. You don't get that guy in the NFL. I understand watching him why you would like the tape. And it's not that I dislike it. I don't think this is a great running back class by any stretch of the imagination. Hell, I think the second running back at Notre Dame might be the fifth or sixth best in this class. I like Hollywood Smothers a lot from NC State. I love Le'Veon Moss at Texas A&M. Liked him for an extended period of time. Yaheem White at West Virginia. He just got hurt. Jaquez Moore from Duke. I'm going to warn all of you. That is the first time you've heard Jaquez Moore's name on this show. You're going to hear it 543,000 times between now and the end of April. I've now watched 2 games of that kid, and I cannot stop watching the raw talent that I think that I think he has. Randy L. also asked about Damon Claiborne. That's the kid at Wake Forest. I have not. Wake Forest is so bad that it's been hard for me to really dig into their tape. I'm actually looking through Bill Workman's rankings right now to see where he has him. Bill, if you can help me out here. There's a lot of names on this list. But I think I've got him in the late hundreds. He doesn't do much for me. Not saying he's bad, just saying he doesn't do a lot for me. Let's see. Oh, I did not see that. I saw the name. I didn't see the full depth of the question. He asked, can you talk about Damon Claiborne a bit? 3 reasons he should be a top 5 running back in this class. 3 reasons that he shouldn't be. These evaluations get a little bit tough because I don't like to bury a kid this early. If you take the Georgia Tech tape away from Damon Claiborne, and I almost don't want to say this solely because I don't know. I'm using what I saw because I have watched a little bit of Wake Forest and what has been reported back to me. I don't see anything outside of that Georgia Tech game that makes me jump up and down. I think he's got a nice little bit of pop. I don't think he can pass block to save his life. And it's really hard for I'll put it here because I don't want to bury this kid and I'm really dancing around. I don't want to say what I have to say and I can't really elaborate beyond what it is that I want to say. I think there is a great chance this kid becomes a kick returner in the NFL, and that's the extent of it. He could be Darren Sproles for all I know. Could be a great kick returner. I just don't see how he's going to be a really good back in this league because I don't see how you're going to hold up to guys that are bigger than you. Now, I will say I need to dive the tape a little deeper, do my own evaluation, maybe trust others a little less. I have not seen it. Neither have the ones that I use their evaluations. That did not answer your question, and I know that, but I will put Damon Claiborne on my list to dive a little deeper into. Once I don't see it with a kid, they can get buried like hell. Eamon Report said Ty Simpson's a sleeper. I don't think I think he's fully awake now. We're talking about him at number 1. GG Gambling, if you're an NFL team and needed a franchise quarterback, or at least a guy to get you through a year or two, who would be the guy? GG, are you referring to in this draft class? I'm not drafting a guy to get me through a year or two. And I'll be honest with you, where I'm at, I'm calling the Philadelphia Eagles. You tell me what it costs on Tanner McKee. Because I don't see it out of any of these guys. I really don't. I see a lot of guys that are probably going to get me fired. Because people are going to think, oh, well, you took him at 1. He's got to be elite. No, it's not necessarily true. Guys go at number 1 that aren't elite all the time. Baker Mayfield wasn't elite. No scout I've ever met would tell you Baker Mayfield was elite. Not a single one. But they had to take somebody. And that was the one they fell the most in love with. And no matter what Baker became, he translated into the absolute abomination of the Cleveland Browns franchise because he got them just to a point, and then they built the team up, and then he fell apart. And that is about as bad as it gets among quarterbacks. You take a guy at 1, he can get you to a certain point, and then you have to make a decision because there is no right decision. If you pay him, now you're paying him more than he deserves. Can't build the team around him. The defense wouldn't be as good, and you'd be stuck. He moves on for cheap as shit, goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after 2 other stops, and he was so cheap that they're able to build a team around him, and he's got an unbelievable group of weapons. Tez Johnson is the 5 down there. For the love of all that's good and holy, he'd be the 2 for the Jets. He'd be the 2 for, I think, several teams. And that props a guy up. Soaring Eagle, what position do the Broncos need on day 1? Wide receiver or inside linebacker? I mean, you know I'm going to lean wide receiver. You're going to need an inside linebacker this week because Dre Greenlaw tried to fight an official. I'm thinking inside linebacker because Alex Singleton sucks at football. And then we get a wide receiver in round 2, maybe Surratt or Jacoby Lane. It's hard to figure out Sean Payton. I mean, really hard to figure out Sean Payton because he sees things in wide receivers that I don't know where you got that. Now, as for what you said about linebackers, this is a damn good time to need a linebacker because you got Reese and Styles from Ohio State, Anthony Hill, C.J. Allen, Whit Weeks. I mean, there are a lot of linebackers in this because I didn't even say Harold Perkins because I think he's way more athlete than he is football player at this point. I'm tired of waiting on him to jump that shark and become a real legitimate, honest-God prospect. But this is a good time to need an inside linebacker. And there are certain teams that will just look at this and go, nope, not doing it. I won't take one that high. But I think you should. Because linebacker's been a really tough position to get talent out of for quite some time because there just haven't been that many out there. And this feels like a year that it's turned a little bit. Okay, find my place back in the chat. Boop. Jack S., who is the franchise quarterback the Rams are going to get at the end of 1 in this draft? Sellers or married? I don't. Mateer. I like the idea of both. I really don't think Sellers is going to come out. I think there's a great chance that he's going to look around and go, no. I need to develop. I need some time. So I think it's actually more likely that it's Anthony Richardson and that they use those 2 first-round picks to build this team up because I can get Anthony Richardson for dirt, especially if Stafford comes back. I actually missed one from Gary Birch who said the tackle Green is a good 3rd in Washington. I'm assuming you're talking about Caden Green. I see him as more of a guard, but he's been fine. His best game came against the lowest level of competition that they've played. And if I'm looking for one of those mid-tier tackles, I keep coming back to Blake Miller. I really do. I like that kid a lot. I think this is a good year to need an offensive lineman because there are so many in this class. Putting in work, the Bill Parcells rankings need to be updated for the current NFL. It is stuck in the run, pass, punt, defense or play defense era of football. I agree. I would actually like to sit down with you and Randy and a handful of these other real true draft nerds of, all right, what have you seen that matters to you, and see if we could come up with a hybrid formula and call it the fuck, I don't know. What the hell would we call that? In the chat, give me a name for what we would call the new Bill Parcells rankings as developed by us. I have one for myself, but it's not infallible. And I'm more than willing to round it off. Randy L. said Haynes King's back up in Baltimore, Philly. I would agree with that. I think he could definitely do that. Hell, they had the, what was it, Sean Clifford? Or no, Sean Clifford was in Green Bay. Who's the one that was in, fuck. I cannot remember his name. I can see his face as clear as day, and I cannot think of that kid's name. In the chat, what the hell was the Penn State kid's name that was backup quarterback for the Ravens for far, far too many years? And by far too many, I mean like 2. I think Stephen Tow's just not telling me on purpose because he thinks it's funny that I can't remember his name. I'll come back to that in a minute. Alex Majabi asked me a question I don't understand. I'm going to assume you're talking about the Chargers because you're a Charger fan. What are your thoughts on recent styles? I'm not sure that I understand the question that you're asking me. I can go. Avril Reese is not going to be there for the Chargers. Sonny Styles might be. It's hard for me with a team like the Chargers because it's so hard for me to take what they're doing as anything more than injury bullshit. I would not take a linebacker that high if I was the Chargers because I don't think it's the biggest need you have. And that team drafts really well late, and I think there are a lot of linebackers in this class. Majabi said they're both. Now I understand it. I was reading this wrong. They're both draft crushes for him. I like them both. I think with the Chargers you have bigger needs. You got to do something with that offensive line. And I get it. You'll get back Alt at some point this year, and Slater will be back next year. The problem is that I look at what you have behind it and go, you have fucking nothing, and your season's killed because you lost your 2 tackles. So it's hard for me to look at a more luxury piece like that. I get what you're saying. I can't quite get there with the Chargers yet. Gary Burt said Nick Harbor isn't a wide receiver. He is I don't know what the fuck he is because he can't block in spite of how big he is. He is freak fast. He's gigantic, but he can't catch. Harbor is just infuriating to me. Putting in work said Brazil will be one of the guys you hear a ton about after the combine, and Harbor needs to learn how to catch. Fact. Randy L., does Levitt come out or transfer? Going back to Arizona State without Tyson doesn't seem like a great plan to me. I think he's coming out. I mean, I can't remember exactly how old he is. He's a redshirt junior, but he'll be 21 and a half by the time we get to the draft. So, I mean, you're talking about if he transfers somewhere else, he's going to have to learn another system, hope to God it works out, and then he'll be 23 by the time he plays an NFL game. I don't think that's a great idea for him, but that's just me. I think we've already seen the tape on him. I think a team will fall in love with him. I don't know that it'll be in the top 20, but I could easily see him being one of the first 3 or 4 quarterbacks off the board. Alex Majabi, who are your top centers in the class? That'd be Slaughter from Florida. From there, this is last year all over again with, I'm trying to remember the names now, McLaughlin, Majors. Once you get past that number 1 guy, it drops off hard for me. Alex S., thoughts on inside linebackers? That's what we were talking about just a little bit ago. Jokers, specifically like Perkins. We're talking about Harold and Sunter. How do you say his name? Sunterine? He has a very strange first name. I look at those two players very differently. So Harold Perkins to me he is a athlete that's trying to figure out how to play football. He's so unbelievably fast. But I don't think he's ever actually developed moves of any kind. To me, Perkins is more of a middle of day two, hope to God you can figure him out kind of player. I don't know exactly how high he will go. There will be a lot of discussion about Harold Perkins because people fall in love with him. Because it's easy to watch a linebacker that's that damn fast and just go, holy shit, how does he not end up as a guy? Now, Suntarine Perkins, Suntarine, not Santarine, he is more of an edge to me, but I really need to dive more into the tape. Ole Miss is a hard defensive eval because they have players that you want to love. All right, I want to love Suntarine Perkins. I want to love Prince Will Amunmalayan. I want to love all of these guys. And every single time I watch Ole Miss, I keep coming back to, why is it that Daquan Wright's the only player on this team that I really like? Everybody else just seems to – Perkins is a little overrated to me. Because, I mean, I've seen him as in the first round, which to me is way too high. But there are guys in this class, and we'll dive into that more as we go along. Randy L., what position do you feel most confident in your ability to pick good NFL players? Quarterback, wide receiver, tight end? Not close. And this is not me being egotistical. I think I'm the best in the business at picking quarterbacks. And I got 6 years of depth on this channel to prove it. Because I have developed a system with quarterbacks that I don't think anybody can beat. It also helps that thing I said earlier that I don't give a damn about clicks. I want to be right. I am way more concerned about being right than I am about being popular. Because I feel like there are a lot of people that come to this channel to ask my opinions on their players, and I'm not going to blow sunshine up your ass, and I'm not going to Stephen Hill you. I'm not going to give you a player that you think solves every problem you've ever had. Meanwhile, I've watched 15 seconds of the tape. I'm talking out of my ass. I'm going to sit here and watch the tape. I'm going to tell you what I really think. And when I do, sometimes people are going to get mad. And I understand that. That's one of the detriments of doing this the way that I do it. But it's the reason that I feel really good about what we do here. Gary Burt said Richardson and Filthy. If they trade Tanner McKee, they're going to need a backup quarterback, and I feel like they're going to miss an opportunity if they don't. Putting in work, great quarterback works anywhere. A good quarterback can work certain places, and a bad organization will kill them both. I don't think I could have said that any better if I tried. Amen report, if I'm the Giants, I'd stay in-house to replace Daboll with Kafka. I love Mike Kafka. I've loved him for many, many years. I don't know how great of a head coach he would be. And I feel like New York would eat him alive. If they don't fire Daboll in the season and give Kafka the opportunity to endear himself to the fan base, him being the stink of Daboll will crush him. But I don't fully disagree with you. I like Kafka a lot, and I don't think there's a ton of options out there. Randy L., can you talk a bit about what and how you evaluate prospects? What traits, grades, and characteristics matter most to you, and how does that vary by position? So, Randy, that's a really good question, and I've never said this out loud. So here is, and this will answer a few questions that the real draft nerds probably have. So I get a watch list every year. 500 players deep. Just keep an eye on these guys. I've got write-ups on every team in college football. And when Saturday rolls around, I am locked in. I am watching football. I've got multiple screens. I've got a lot of ways to watch football. I then take notes throughout the day of guys that I've seen, guys that jump off the tape, because for me, the television tape doesn't do a lot. and it's hard to see a guy jump off the screen. If he does, it tells me a lot. Then I'll go back and watch the tape, team by team, position by position, whatever the case may be. And we get to about this point. This is the end of October. We're going into November. We're getting into the colder months. The cold months are where I'm really diving tape, and I will be in my office just sitting here staring at the screen in front of me. It's got shit running on it right now. I will be in here doing this for hours on end. Then I find guys that on the tape will jump off the tape. And I'll go backwards down that way. Then we get to about January, and I start working position by position. Because when we get through the Super Bowl, I know that the fans of the teams that didn't make it, whatever the case may be, they're going to want to hear who's coming up in the draft. So then I start doing team-independent evaluations from about the middle of February to about the middle of March. March is when free agency hits, and I have a big board of every team's need. As you sign guys that I think take away that need, I start crossing it off. Team needs for me can go, I think the deepest I've ever gone was 15. I think I did have a team a few years ago that had 15 needs. Then I start working into the mocks. And then I start working into the tape that I have worked on. And I'll see a guy and go, damn, that guy feels like a Detroit Lion, or that guy feels like a Baltimore Raven. And I start putting them together. It's one of the reasons I was so bad in the mock draft contest last year, because I started falling in love with all these guys going to specific spots. Now, in terms of how I watch tape, it depends on why I'm watching the tape. Am I watching the tape for one individual player? Am I watching the tape for an individual team? Am I watching the tape because somebody directed me to it? They're different. I don't start doing individual player workups until January. Now, I've got notebooks full of notes of just sitting on my couch watching tape, sitting on my couch watching live games. And then I try to compile all of those things into my notes that actually live on the computers and things like that. That was a very... If you want to go by position, that answer that just took 4 solid minutes is going to take 40. So I can answer that as we go along. I don't necessarily want to sit here for the next hour and explain what it is I look at every position. We can do that with the position grades. Actually, that's the way to do that. When I start putting out position grades in December, I will start hitting on what it is I'm looking for in the tape, how I watch it, and make those a little bit more involved. Stephen Dow said a mock draft with the Ravens drafting at 2 is going to be weird. Yes, it is, especially when you realize how many good players there are at the top of the class. And that Baltimore, talent-wise, doesn't have a lot of needs. And Baltimore's currently at 5, just so you know. They will be 5 in tomorrow's mock. Eamon reports that I have Simpson above Nussmeier. I actually do too. From Joseph Ostin, for a quarterback, defensive recognition and accuracy are top 2 traits. Accuracy is very high. Pocket presence is very high. Quarterbacks are, nobody wants to admit this out loud, but I will you call me as dumb as you want to. I got a lot of proof here that I know what I'm talking about. Quarterbacks are a lot more eyeball test than people want to make it out to be. But you also have to be really careful what you're looking at. I'm going to call this the Shador rule moving forward. Watching him drop accurate balls against no defense doesn't really matter. When you watched his feet, it was super obvious how uncomfortable he was and that he had never been developed. That told me everything I needed to know. And I got called every name under the book because I didn't like Shador. And guess what? I wasn't the only one. Every NFL scout I talked to went, that's a developmental prospect at best. That's a guy that'll get you fired. I heard it 500 times last year. Accuracy is very important. Not turning the ball over is very important. The level of competition that you played is insanely important. And when I say that, it's not that guys from smaller schools can't be really good. Hell, 2 of the 3 best quarterbacks in the league went to Wyoming and Louisville. You just have to look at what it is that you're looking at. And I'll be honest with you, where a guy falls, the team a guy goes to matters so much. So much. Aiming report, Brian Kelly's getting fired soon. God, I hope so for LSU fans' sakes. Randy, also, can you talk about some of the evolutions you've personally had in evaluating prospects, lessons you've learned, types you fall for that screw you, big receivers? I am back in the day, I was a slut for a big receiver because I like big body physical receivers because they can win multiple ways. Another thing that I fall for, I'm not going to say regularly, but I have fallen for I can get duped by interior defensive linemen, especially if they have really good edges on the outside. I've started breaking down defensive line tape in almost a vacuum. I don't give a fuck what's happening behind you. I care what's happening in front of you. Evolutions, one of the biggest things that changed in the way I evaluate wide receivers is taking the quarterback play out of it. Don't watch the ball. The ball doesn't fucking matter. 95% of these guys can catch, and if they can't catch, I'm going to figure it out as I go deeper into the tape. I watch how you win, and I watch how you run routes, and I watch how your feet work, because that is quarterback proof. That's why I fucking love Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I could not understand why people weren't seeing it, because you watch him isolated in an all 20 in an all 22. He won over and over and over and over and over, and it didn't matter who lined up across from him. It didn't matter. It did not matter. And so I will in the winter I will get deeper into those things and how I watch tape, and some little nuances are going to stay in my little bag of tricks because I do need job security. But yeah, I love to watch tape. I'm still trying to come up with a way that we can watch tape together. But I am a monetized channel, and somebody owns all that shit. So. Notorious B.I.G. Nussmeier sucks. All those receivers at LSU, and he looks so mediocre. And the funny thing is, I do like a lot of those receivers. Bill Booty Cheeks, you think the Bengals make the playoffs? I think it's way more likely than people want to let on because the AFC sucks. Gary Birch, marginal college offensive tackles can be good to great NFL guards. I went through last year with some scout friends of mine because that's another blind spot for me. It is not hard for me to spot an offensive tackle. It is not hard for me to spot a guard. It is harder for me to spot the offensive tackles that can become guards. Will Campbell, everybody kept telling me, he should be a guard. No, the fuck he shouldn't. He plays like a tackle. He is not. He is too angular. He's too upright. All of the things that can burn you as a guard, he did them all. And so that's why I kept laughing. He should play guard. No, he shouldn't. And weird. He's been a really good tackle in the league. Putting in work. Dunker is a dog. And Randy said, Trevor Sycamore loves Dunker. Like top 15 player in the class loves. I'm not that high, but I do have him ahead of Caden Proctor, which really fucks with some people. Brugler loves Parker also. Thinks he can flex across all the offensive line. Like Graham Barton in Tampa Bay. I'm going to be honest with you. I am not very close with the guy, but I do think Dane Brugler and I probably see – I think we see tape as similarly as any two people I know in this business. We just see a lot of things very similarly. And – as time goes on, he's one of those guys that I do not know how to bridge the gap of, hey, I would love to be friends with you. I mean, we know some of the same people. I would love to sit down with Dane Brugler, like get him on the show and we just talk for a fucking hour. Just first thing comes to your mind, first thing comes to my mind, we'll just bounce them back and forth. And I'm going to find a way to do that this year. If it kills me, I'm going to find a way to do that. Alex S. said Chandler Rivers is being slept on, and I don't know why. He's not being slept on by me. And watch the mock draft tomorrow and watch the cornerback rankings, and you will see how not being slept on he is by me. Putting in work. They sleep on Duke, but Rivers is going to be a name to know for sure. Randy L. Check down Charlie with 61% completion percentage is not good. Gary Birch, honestly, Sellers is a horrible decision maker. He is at times. I feel like Lenora Sellers was a prospect that needed to be babied a little bit, and instead they just heaped everything on him this year and went, we're a top 10 team, and you're the reason why. Go. And he kind of folded like a deck chair. Gary also said, yes, sir, R. Mason. Big fan of him. I am a big fan of him. Randy L. Mikhail Kamara looks kind of heavy to me. And this is really lazy because their names start with the same letter and they have the same last name. He reminds me of Muhammad Kamara with not necessarily the burst out of his stance that I saw out of Kamara. I also don't think he's as flexible as Kamara. Let's see. Joseph Osteen, short people got no reason. I'm not sure what that means, but Tank will be really sad that you said that. Alex S. Cassius Howell is super short, especially in the arms. Thoughts on that? Edges are tough because what will work in one place will not work in another place. Cassius Howell at edge rusher out of Texas A&M is a really good example of that. His pass rush win rate's 26%. He's an absolute liability against the run. So where does that guy play? Like what and I will have a better answer to this as time goes on. What is the defensive alignment where I think that guy's going to work? And I don't right now know the answer to that. I am not as high on him as some others are because I think he benefits from the A&M scheme. And if you don't believe me, outside of Shamar Stewart, look at how many guys out of Texas A&M have gone to the league and gone, oh, that guy's going to be really good. And then they go to the league and they don't do shit. It's also a really good identifier for a good coach. And I think Mike Elko is a really good defensive coach. I just wish he would, see a doctor and maybe check out some Ozempic because I'd like him to be around for a while. Putting in work, R. Mason's a sleeper for the draft that you want to have in your pass rotation for sure. Joseph Osteen, all the offensive linemen are 6'6" monsters now, though. As time goes on, the offensive linemen are getting bigger, which there is a benefit to having some of these smaller edge rushers that can get underneath their pad level. The problem is that the small guys, if I can get my hands on you, you're fucked. You have to be so fast out of that break. Just looking at the top, and I'm looking at Sycamores big board right now, top 100 tackles right now. This is what they list at from 100 to 1. 6'5", 324, 6'6", 315, 6'8", 318, 6'7", 325, 6'7", 312, 6'6", 308, 6'5", 325, 6'7", 366, 6'6", 315, 6'5", 315, 6'6", 308. Offensive linemen have become absolute monsters. And then you get into that second layer of guy, and I'm not throwing Trevor under the bus here by any stretch of the imagination. But once I say this, you'll never unsee it. When you find smaller offensive linemen, just notice that they tend to start at about 200 for him. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. But some of them are really talented. Randy L. said, I'd love to be doing this for a living. Better than fighting motherfuckers out of a bar for sure. I agree. It is pretty sweet. Oh, shit, I missed a bunch right there. Gary Birch said, grown up, Bobby Hill is Heupel. Putting in work said, we need a Tank and Heupel picture now. We can do that for tomorrow. Alex Majabi said, amen. Joseph Osteen, yep, most of the content is shit out there. There are a lot of guys that I think work really hard, but they try to cut corners. And it's pretty obvious to me when I start listening to guys and go, none of what you just said makes sense. And I'm not going to call names here. I'm really not. But some of those guys get 10 times the views I do. And, okay, this is not my My breadwinner is not YouTube. I do appreciate every dollar, every super chat, every view, everything people do. And the more the bigger and bigger that gets, the more cool shit we can do, and we take all that money and put it right back into the show. But it's not what's putting food on my table. So I mean, I think that's the difference between me and some of these other guys. If you don't watch them, they don't eat. I don't have that problem. And that's not me being a dick. It's just we're very lucky that we're situated in a different way. That I don't have to do that. Gary Burt said, I get frustrated with constant quarterback talk, especially in shit quarterback years. Those are the ones where I really get. It's in the bad quarterback years. That's where I become more and more sensitive to it. Of just, holy shit, why are you still hammering this? This quarterback class sucks. Putting in work, quarterback is the spot that gets the eyes, but they aren't shit without the other 52 players on the roster. Agreed. Just Fosten, I watched every game J.J. McCarthy played in college. Literally historic low usage rate. That was one of the problems that I had with him, is that the more I watched the tape, the less I liked him. And then you start watching him in a phone booth, and you really don't like him. Lost my spot there. It's from shit. Hold on, I got to refresh YouTube because it crashed out again. Oh, scroll back up. There we go. It's Randy L. C.J. Baxter is a walking, if he's healthy, medical red flag. At what point does the talent meet the risk and he get drafted? With running backs, it can be a real bitch because there's so damn many of them. So, I mean, the question is he still on boards for how many teams? Because he has been hurt a lot. I also think there's a great chance he's going to come back. And so if he comes back and stays healthy for the rest of the season, then that can alleviate some of those problems. Where does the rubber meet the road? It's hard for me to say on him right now. If I were guessing, I would say on just sheer talent, he's a late second day, early day 3 prospect. That tends to be undrafted free agent when they start failing medical. Because they drop like rocks. Matt said Sam Darnold, that's Sammy D, MVP, in spite of 2 god-awful turnovers last night. Still got to win. And he has the number 1 receiver in the NFL right now. Because Sam is a dog. Putting in work, if you can develop a quarterback today, you'll have a blank check from every team in the league and in college. Correct. Randy L., I heard someone recently insinuate that Love wasn't the best running back at Notre Dame. What do you think of Jadarian Price? I think I mentioned him earlier. He's a top 5 running back in this class for me. But to say he's better than Jeremiah Love, I'm going to need somebody to show the work on that. I was not a big Jeremiah Love guy until I was. And now I feel like Jeremiah Love's everything you were told Ashton Jeanty was. And Jeanty being such a high usage, low results player, I think is going to push Love down in some people's minds. And I still think Love goes in the top 10. Aim and report, the UFL needs to be overhauled as a developmental league. I've said that for years. Every NFL team, or every UFL team gets 4 NFL teams. We build out, what, you get 11, 12 spots, 13 spots per team. 13, 26, 52. 13 spots per team, put them down there. And but what if they get hurt? Well, they wouldn't be on the fucking roster any other way. So I believe that is how you run a developmental league, is that you tie them into an NFL team, and it gives you a reason to watch. Because I said this with Trey Palmer for a long time, which is ironic because now he's in New Orleans. I used to ask Tank, If I told you Trey Palmer was playing for the San Antonio Renegades, and you know that was a buck, would you be more or less likely to watch it? And he always, I wouldn't be more likely to watch it. I think a lot of people would, though. I know I would. And putting in work, agreed, 1,000% they do, would help both games. Joseph Osteen said Josh Allen developed into a good quarterback accuracy-wise. Josh Allen might be the last quarterback that I go, he developed. Because he was not an accurate quarterback at first, and working with Daboll and working with Joe Brady and working with even Ken Dorsey has helped him round himself out into a great quarterback. He is the last one that I saw developed, and I knew somebody, Matt, said, I think Baker and Sam developed. I don't. I think they were both these quarterbacks a long time ago. They were just in such dog shit situations that you couldn't see it. You know, Cleveland had no weapons. None. So it was all on Baker. Sam had Robbie Anderson and nothing else. So you get them out of that. You take the pressure off of them. You put them in a situation where they were very cheap and they have a lot of talent around them, and you can see what they are. I think they have rounded out their games. I do not necessarily think they developed. I think they were both fine to begin with. Thought Sam was a high-level talent. Baker was fine. Not a game that I'm a huge fan of, especially since we're talking about prospects. But he is better now than he was. And I think Sam's better now than he was. But for me, that was just rounding out talent they already had more than developing it. Josh Allen was inaccurate as hell. That's not really a problem anymore. Randy L. Singleton's had a disappointing season along with the rest of Penn State. How much has his draft stock been hurt? Not a bit for me because I don't give a fuck what you do in college. I don't care how many games you win. I don't care, especially if it's because of things you can't control. I've seen Nick Singleton for years. That dude's an NFL football player, period. For the industry, I would say he's probably dropped around. Let's see. Gary said, it also pisses me off when everyone clamors to draft a QB. No, you need the QB in the first round. Exactly. And Osteen got it exactly right. I suppose because the risk reward on the quarterback position. It is funny to me how many teams will take a quarterback in the second or third, sometimes fourth round, and just go, it's fine. Well, it's fine. It's fine. Sit them behind a quarterback. I'm trying to think of an example of this right now. Let me go back to my list here. The Atlanta Falcons. They take Desmond Ridder, and then the next thing you know, that's their plan. Okay, so if you thought he was that good, then why the fuck did you take so long to take him? No, he's just. I mean, and I hate to use the name of my upcoming book, but I'm horny and you're here. That's what a lot of teams do with quarterbacks. I need a quarterback, and you're the one that's available to me. Fuck it, let's ride. Justin Fields right now with the New York Jets. Him and Tyrod Taylor both. I don't think Justin Fields, or I don't think Aaron Glenn actually believes in either one of them. But you're the ones that are here. Putting in work. YouTube has a vested interest in quarterbacks, it seems. Stephen Towle said Ray Rice, tiny bowling ball running back comp. That is a good one. Osteen agreed that Justice Haynes is pretty good between the tackles. He is. He's very good between the tackles. I don't know. I don't know how much he can be developed outside of that, and I don't tend to love those kind of running backs. The difference with him, at least from what I have seen, is that he actually evals as being able to do more things, whereas somebody like Chuba Hubbard can't really do any of the things I need a running back to do. And yes, I know he's always my example of that. It's because he's the best example of it. Putting in work, Mekhi Hughes will be in the portal again. Yes, he will. Stephen B., lots of people fantasize about the great value of drafting quarterback in the third round. Every year there's a presumed third-round quarterback that becomes popular. Third-round quarterbacks almost never hit. Ooh, let's dive into that a little, just a step. Here are the quarterbacks that have been drafted in the third round in the last handful of years. Jalen Milroe, Dylan Gabriel, Hendon Hooker, Desmond Ridder, Malik Willis, Matt Corral. I'll throw Bailey Zappi in there, too, because he was a 4. Kellen Mond, Davis Mills, Jacob Eason, who was a 4. Oh, God, I can't say that name out loud. James Morgan, who went to the Jets. God, he was fucking awful. Ryan Finley, Jared Stidham, Mason Rudolph, Kyle Laletta, Davis Webb, C.J. Beathard, Josh Dobbs, Jacoby Brissett, Cody Kessler, Connor Cook, Dak Prescott, Cardell Jones, Sean Mannion, Bryce Petty. That's in the last 10 years. You notice that there's one hit in that entire list? I agree with you wholeheartedly. To me, if you can't take a quarterback comfortably in the first round, don't take him at all. Because it's like spaghetti sauce. It's going to give you heartburn. Is the juice worth the squeeze? And if they're not going to play, then the juice is not worth the squeeze. If your spaghetti sucks, it's not worth the heartburn that I'm going to have. But if it's good, damn, it's good. Randy L., we had a whole convo on Lou here with how many people are much lower than what seems the consensus currently. I'm assuming the Lou you're talking about is the center out of Auburn. I almost mentioned him when I was talking about Slaughter, Jake Slaughter. I didn't, and it's not because it's Connor Lou out of Auburn. It's not that I don't like him. I like him fine from what I've seen. He is in one of those blind spots for me that I am currently not capable of talking about him well enough to give you enough of a real take. I have seen him, but I have seen him more watching the wide receivers at Auburn, watching Jackson Arnold. I need to sit down and watch just him. So I can't really give you a great eval on him yet. I will. That's on my list as well. Let's see. NFL, just from Joseph Osteen. The NFL is so damn violent, you need to mitigate the hits on the quarterback for sure. Quarterbacks will not survive that get hit the way that C.J. Stroud's getting hit right now. I thought that a million times last night. Randy L., by the way, can we just take note that a draft chat in fucking October blew up Jeremy's YouTube chat? Bunch of sickos we are. To the point it froze and he lost half of it. I did, and I apologize for that. YouTube was really tired of me answering questions. Putting in work said Claiborne's 230 overall, super athletic, but I wonder if he has eyes. If he has eyes sometimes watching his film. There we go. Dark Soldier, thanks for joining us. Absolutely appreciate you. Go Jets, in spite of the fact it's go into the ground. Randy L. talking about Claiborne. He said, no, it's cool. Just wanted some good and some bad. Alex from Jail Mary Sports loves Claiborne. And I'm not going to lie, I watch a lot of their content, and I'll start making notes on guys of, okay, I don't know enough about this guy to have this conversation. This is also one of the reasons that I wanted to do this in October, because now I've got a list of guys that I need to go back. Okay, like I really respect this guy's opinion, and he's on him. I need to go back and see what I think of him. Doesn't mean I'm going to love him. Just means you're more targeting my film watching. John Carmen, Jeremy must have hated Barry Sanders when he was in college. Barry Sanders was in a very different age, and Barry Sanders was a very different running back. Barry Sanders was untackleable. Being a short, squatty man is different when your bones are made of rubber. Barry Sanders is one of my top 5 favorite players of all time. I got to meet him at the draft 2 years ago. I thought I was going to pee my pants. It was him and Eminem right beside each other, and I went, oh my God, my childhood is so happy right now. Osteen said Sanders was in college was a video game. Put in work said Barry Sanders is a once-in-generational talent. Absolutely. Stephen B. said now the Browns have Mayfield Jr. at starting quarterback. Yep. This is the Baker. They now have squattier Baker Mayfield playing quarterback for them, which is really hard to watch. Randy L., Le'Veon Moss, Justice Haynes, Jadarian Price, nearly identical measurables based on what I found. Can you compare and contrast that grouping? I love Le'Veon Moss. I think I'm going to be higher on him than anybody in the class. I hate that he's hurt. And he's had some injury issues over time. Jadarian Price, the knock on him is going to be, well, he didn't have full workload. I can hear it already. But he's a lot of fun to watch. Justice Haynes would probably be, if I'm being honest, he'd probably be my 3 of that group. Solely because I think he does less things than the other 2 do. Jadarian Price is more of an unknown. Le'Veon Moss, I know exactly what I'm getting. It's just a question of, does he get a shot? He kind of I want to come up with a comp for him. I want to come up with a comp for Le'Veon Moss that is over my time doing this. Let's go back to the Kerryon Johnson. Le'Veon Moss reminds me of Kerryon Johnson. I know how good, and injuries derailed him. He also had a basketball player build. But Kerryon Johnson was a player that I watched in college, and I went, if that kid gets a shot, that kid's going to be a starter. The question is, does he get a shot? And I don't know. If he does, though, I think he's going to be really, really good. Andreas Pinckney was talking about the Broncos going round 1 receiver. That ain't how he rolls. I actually almost said that, and then I don't know why I didn't. Putting in work, Harold Perkins needs a linebacker coach that can teach him how to use his athletic ability the best ways possible. I agree. Gary Birch, every modern offense is centered around making linebackers wrong. I also agree. Harold relies too much on being a freak athlete and making guesses. I agree with all of those things. Stephen B., should the Rams just wait until 2027 to go hard after a new starting quarterback? That's a hard question to answer now because I don't know if Stafford's flirted with retirement. You've got Garoppolo, which that mitigates the must of getting one now. I mean, because look, Jimmy Garoppolo could come in and play, and I still think the Rams would be a borderline playoff team. It just matters. They got 2 first-round picks this year. Do they fall in love with the guy? And I'll be honest with you, they added that second first-round pick on the pretense that they either were already in love with the guy or the plan that was that they were going to be in love with the guy. As a guy whose weakness is tall, fast receivers, Harbor is the ultimate bait for me. Have you seen enough development of skill set as a receiver this year to believe in him? No. No, he's now. I will say the high side of that's DK Metcalf, the low side of that's Stephen Hill, and I was in on both of them, and the tall, fast receiver became the cocktail waitress for me. I had enough of them ruin my fucking life that I'm out on all of them. And every once in a while, I'll dabble. I'm married now, so I don't dabble with cocktail waitresses anymore, but I did. Every once in a while, there'd be one that you just go, I have to do this. It's the same way with receivers. And I'm not there with Nick Harbor. His hands are just not good enough. Alex S., what does next year's quarterback class look like? I'm not going a year out. So because I don't know who's going to be in it. There are, in terms of, and I will go 15 seconds on this, just with my watch list for next year. Because so many of the guys that will be high on this list could also be in this class. So 27 quarterbacks. And you got Arch. Amaliava was up there. Lagway's the first one that jumps in for the first time. Jackson Arnold. I mean, it's not much to write home about. But then you could also have Lenora Sellers. You could have Dante Moore. You could have a lot of guys that don't come out in this class. That's why it's so hard. Dylan Raiola could be in that class next year. I don't know what to think about that, but he could be. I'm trying to find the next guy that would be in that class for the first time. Yeah, it's hard to comment on those until you know who's coming in or out this year. Oh, I see breaking news. I I don't know what the breaking news is, and it's probably not breaking news anymore because that comment had to be quite some time ago. Let's go to the old Twitter box and see if. Yeah, I see no breaking news other than Woody Johnson saying that it's Aaron Glenn's decision. Oh, there we go. Jets are expected to name Tyrod Taylor as the new starting quarterback. I heard it's still up to AG and he wasn't there yet. So, sorry if I had read just two comments down, I could have saved all that. Joseph Osteen said I'd go with the Brad Holmes secret sauce of talent evaluation. You want to know what and it's funny you say that because I know Brad. You know what his secret sauce is? I don't give a fuck what you think. If you've watched our draft stuff over the last handful of years, Brad Holmes has made me so much better at this because I stopped giving a shit what anybody thought. Oh, well, you don't have him in the first round, so maybe I shouldn't put him in the first round. You have him in the third, so I'll put him in the second because I like him better than you. Fuck that. If I like a guy, I like a guy. And that's just the way it is. And I love that about Brad Holmes. There were so many people that made fun of him for Jahmyr Gibbs. Nobody makes fun of him now. Nobody makes fun of him now. Thank you, Jackass, Trace McSorley. That's the quarterback I forgot. Could not for the life of me remember that fucker's name. Randy L. Antonio Williams, production always seemed too reliant on the scheme. Good I don't like anything from Clemson. He struggled at times without it. Maybe I was wrong. Antonio Williams, I think, has talent. The problem that I have with guys like that is why is your offense so bad if he's so good? And look, he ate Carolina alive. But then I watch him against good teams, and I'm just not overly impressed. I think he's a day two guy, but I don't know that there's anything more there. I think he could be good. I don't necessarily see great. Putting in work's got a good point. A lot of that's the attention that he pulls because they're not really scared of anybody else out there. Stephen B. said, remember the outrage by criticism of Fields as a prospect? I got called a racist probably 500 times a year. I've never been angrier at the world than I was over the Justin Fields thing. It's one of the reasons I dislike him so much. Is because he brings up a really that was that right after the COVID shit, and that was a terrible time to make your living out in the public eye, and it was awful. Stephen B. Why can't an adult change schools if he or she wants to? They do, and they do. There has to be some limitation on athletes solely because the money is stupid. So if you put no limitation, Ohio State becomes unbeatable. Oregon becomes unbeatable. At some point, you also have to teach these kids, you make a decision, you stick with it. That's part of the reasons we all grew up playing team sports was to learn to be part of a team. And I think we've really lost that. We lost that in America. And I'm not making it's a bullshit. I am making a political statement here. It was something about social media and where we are in the world. We lost a good portion of the world lost the ability to be decent and understand that this world's not all about you. People forget that. And watching some of the shit I've seen over the last handful of weeks I don't know that I've ever been more repulsed by a certain percentage of people in the world than I am right now. Just shit that you're willing to say out loud. People stop getting punched in the mouth, and it's weird how so much has gone downhill after that. I apologize, Stephen B. That didn't actually answer the question that I did answer the question that you asked, but then I went on a little tirade past that, so apologies. Amon Report, there needs to be limitations to the transfer portal. That's where that came from. And I agree with you. If you're paid to do a job, you do the fucking job. And these guys get paid up front, and then there is no recourse for the school. And that just can't survive. Gary Birch, for me, Harbor's biggest issue isn't catching. He doesn't have burst and agility. In all seriousness, when we watch his high school film, world-class athlete, can't get separation in high school. I would say he's an edge, but he's really straight line fast. He's just not agile. And hell, he might be a tight end. Might be the fastest tight end in NFL history. But I think he's a polarizing prospect because we see how big and how fast he is, and it makes him a tantalizing guy to watch. Randy asked, how old C.J. Daniels? I don't know exactly how old he is. I know he was a freshman in 2020, which was 6 years ago. So he's got to be at the very least, he's got to be 23. I think he's probably closer to 24. Sir Jimothy, from the Hall of Fame invitees, who should have gotten in or invited, and who should have been invited in your opinion? I saw that Belichick was one of them. I didn't see the others. Let me pull this. I saw it on Twitter, so I know exactly where it is. Okay. Bill Belichick, Tom Coughlin, Mike Holmgren, Dan Reeves, Marty Schottenheimer, George Seifert, Mike Shanahan. I don't have a problem with any of those people. That's in the coach category. I mean, to me, it's stupid that every guy I just said, Chuck Knox, I missed that one. I mean, Bill Belichick, Tom Coughlin, Mike Holmgren, Chuck Knox, Dan Reeves, Marty Schottenheimer, Mike Shanahan, and probably George Seifert, too. Seifert would be 7th on that list, but the first 6, no doubt, should be Hall of Famers. I think that's one stupid thing we do with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We make it really hard for guys to get in that are coaches or around the game that aren't players. Okay. We are almost to the end of the questions here, so I'm going to have to go rapid fire because I'm at 2.5 hours now. So Randy L, this wide receiver class has so many things. Speed guys, which group do you like best? I like the big receivers in this class. I think there's a lot of really good big guys in this class. Watching Bryce Lane felt like I was watching a D1 prospect dunk on middle schoolers. How important is the Senior Bowl to his draft stock? He's a really good example of why we do the Senior Bowl. And I feel like, especially now that I've been to 2 of them, I feel like we pay attention to certain things that don't matter and don't pay attention to shit that does. To the point of this year, I'm going to do the Senior Bowl, and I'm probably going to do the Shrine Bowl as well. It's in Frisco. I can get there by plane because I want to see both. I want to be at both. And there's a great possibility that's how I'll be doing it. If I'm not there on site, you rest assured I will have someone on site. And by the way, Bryce Lane's a kid out of North Dakota State. I like him a lot. Randy L also said I like Rivers. I like so much of his tape. He's one of the highest rated corners I got in this class. Gary Birch, hate when folks say accuracy then talk completion percentage. Completion percentage matters. Straight up, it does. Ball placement, I get it. The difference. Okay, I'm gonna go on a little tirade here. Not tirade, but just a little rant. If you can't complete 65% of your passes in college, you're not that fucking good. Straight up, you're just not. Because we have made this so easy with all of the calls on defenses and shit like that. If you can't complete 65% of your passes, I'm just not interested in you. And over the last 10 years, I think when I deep dove this, there's been 2 quarterbacks that have proven me wrong. I agree with you. Ball placement's more important, but this is almost like an SAT score. You got to score over 800, or you're too stupid for me to talk to. In terms of college admission, that's how I feel about completion percentage. It's not the end all be all, but damn, it's important. Joseph Osteen, the draft showed you what Sanders was thought of by scouts. I said that throughout the whole process because I talked to a lot of them, and they all told me the same thing. Putting in work, if Rivers was in a better system, it'd be more widely known. I agree with that. Post Shador's how I'm judging Coach Prime's body work. We'll see if he can get to 6-6. That's from Eamon Report. I just hope he doesn't get to Florida State because that is not the coach that I want. Randy L. Malachi Fields had a slow start in the Notre Dame offense, but he's got skills and size. Big fan. I like him as well. Gary Birch said he was huge on Amon-Ra. I was drunk as hell on Amon-Ra. Randy L. Burks and Aaron Anderson are very close physical comps. Who do you like more and why? I would say I like Burks better, but it's fractional, and I do reserve the right to change my mind on that. Randy L. after Sadiq, the quarterback or the tight end group is a toss-up. Brugler likes, I don't know who that's supposed to be. Some like Stowers from Vanderbilt. Triggs grabs some attention. Who do you like at tight end other than Sadiq? I like Stowers from Vanderbilt quite a lot. The name I'm going to say a shitload is that big kid from Ole Miss. I'm literally going to have to look it up because I can't remember it. I like Max Clare. I'm not as big on injuries. I'm not as big on Trigg. I like Oscar Delp if that's what you're looking for. And then the kid out of Ole Miss, Daquan Wright. I'm going to say that name a lot this offseason. Randy L. Teammate said he calls Proctor Krispy Kreme because all the donuts he eats here, you worried he eats his way out of the league. I'm worried that he's not that good. I think he is a super polarizing prospect because I know a lot of people that do not think he's a tackle. They think he's a guard. I've heard weight issues. I've heard a lot of things. He's a freak athlete. The problem is that freak athlete goes away. There's only one Trent Williams, and that's the only guy I've ever seen that was a freak athlete that at 37 years old is still a freak athlete. At some point, you have to be able to play the game, and I'm not so sure how good Caden Proctor actually is. I am in like with him. I am not in love with him. Chaplain. Randy, I don't know who you're talking about there. Sorry, I'm having to get through these quick. I just realized what time it was. Putting in work, edges are like QBs. The system you put them in is almost as valuable as how talented they are. Agreed. Gary Birch, edge liability versus the run sounds like a Dan Quinn guy. You're not the first person that said that to me. Randy L., I think the Stellar stat got lost. He ran 22 times for 19 yards against LSU. According to the tracking system, he covered 894 yards on foot. That's insane. I like World. Heard he's a lot shorter than listed, like under 6'6". I like Isaiah World. He has not been as impressive as I thought he would be. I have not stood next to him, so I don't know exactly how tall he is. I want to see how he finishes the year. A lot of people have pushed him down the board. I'm not doing that solely because that was such a jump in competition. I want to see how he finishes. So I'll be better able to answer that in probably a month. Malga, guard or tackle, he's a tackle for me. Right tackle, no doubt. Starting right tackle immediately, and I'd take him I would consider him in the top 5. I'd definitely take him in the top 10, though. Randy L. asking about some lighter offensive linemen. Fanu, Lamu, Shelton, Wagner. Is that a successful trend? It was a few years ago, and they felt like guys got bigger. And now maybe we're reverting back to, all right, the edge rushers are getting fast again. The Nick Bonitos of the world are tearing us a new asshole. So that tends to be cyclical. Sir Jimothy, which are the top draft picks from or prospects from Florida? I think there's a better chance right now that Caleb Banks actually comes back to Florida, just solely because his stock has taken a bit of a hit with not being able to play this year. Jake Slaughter that I've talked about, Tyreek Sapp, the edge rusher. Then you get into those more middle tier guys. Eugene Wilson, I don't think he will come out. I would be shocked if he did. J. Michael Sturdivant, who is a transfer from UCLA. I'm a really, really big fan of him. And then Austin Barber would be a later offensive line prospect. Whew. This one has worn me down. That thing I said about, hey, I can just go and go until I can't go anymore. It's 100% not true. But we're almost there. Randy L. Heard a few folks that love Caleb Tiernan out of Northwestern. Others have him early day 3. Where are you? I have him middle of day 2. I have it right now. I have a back end of the second round grade on him. What do you think about Trey Zune? Also, I do not know what that name was supposed to be. Trey Zune is an interesting case because that kid has literally been up and down rankings for the last, feels like 5 years. I know it hasn't been that long, but I think he's finally rounding into form. The problem is that he's so bad as a run blocker. I think he can be an elite pass blocker if you got a nice run set guy on the inside of him. I'd say I'll probably have a 4th-ish round grade on him, but a little down the board for me right this second. And he has been very up and down. Randy said MJD is always my tiny bowling ball comp. He is a really good one. Connor Lew at Auburn. That's the one you're talking about. Randy L said some of these podcasts are like picking an original guy just to see how much they can impact the draft community. I think I've actually thought that for quite some time. Is that I feel like some of these places actually have relationships with the guy and they're trying to push them up the board. I don't. I have relationships with a few agents. I know some of the players. I typically get to know them after I have said all of the things about them. So what I say is my opinion. It's not biased at all. Andreas Pinkney, what do you think about A.J. Harris, the corner from Penn State? He hasn't been as good this year. I'm curious to see how he finishes the year. Penn State's been such a disaster. It's going to be really hard to quantify these Penn State guys, and they have a lot of them. Putting in work said DJ Lagway should be a name for the 27 quarterback list for sure. CJ Carr is also one. Let's see. I fucked up real bad. There it is. Talk about the grouping of edge rushers. Howell, Mason Thomas, Joseph. I like Joseph from Tennessee a lot. I like Mason. R. Mason, I like him a lot. Cassius Howell, I like considerably less. R. Mason Thomas will be one of the highest. He'll be one of the players that's the highest on my board that's so much lower on everybody else's. And then Joseph's the kid from Tennessee is one that I like a lot. Gary Burt said Rayola of the Raiders would be hilarious. I agree. Putting in work. He's a dollar store knockoff of Mahomes, for sure. Sturdivant feels like a guy with size and speed that's flying under the radar. I liked him a lot at UCLA. He's talking about J. Michael Sturdivant from he's at Florida now. He was at UCLA before. I like him a lot. Another one I'm curious to see how he ends the year. Randy L. asked me about Vincent Anthony Jr. from Duke. Duke has a bunch of defensive players that I like, to the point of let me search my spreadsheet here. They have 7 top 300 players for me. That includes Mensa, who probably doesn't come out, but still. Anthony, I have not deep dove. I haven't done the deep dive on as much. I think he will probably end up. I've seen him. I've got some notes on him. I think he'll end up being probably a 7th round guy for me. I don't dislike him, but I need to dig a little further. Randy was asking about Amari Washington. That is a name that every scout I talk to mentions. It is shocking how he has screamed up boards this early in the season. I think defensive tackle could be really good in this class. Darrell Jackson Jr. is another good one. Gary Birch, we're actually doing a Senior Bowl trip this year. So we'll have probably Tank driving one of the shuttles. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to go, but we will do a trip to the Senior Bowl. We'll probably meet in Greenville. I know Bill Workman went with me to the Senior Bowl last year. I'd like to take more guys this year. I'd like to have a team of guys working this year. So anybody that's interested in going, let me know. We will be booking those things out probably closer to the end of November. Kevin the PRF said, I'm here late arguing with Pats fans on X. Is Drake May an MVP candidate? Yes. Or a product of his schedule? Partially, yes. Should it matter? 100% no. You only play the teams that are in front of you. I'm not going to hold it against him for an MVP candidacy. Now, I will change. It also helps that the Patriots' schedule doesn't get any better. You know, they just keep playing the dregs. So, we're talking about Tyreek Sapp. I like him a lot. We'll get into him in a later video, probably tomorrow, honestly. Randy said I'll stop so Jeremy can get off of this at some point. I appreciate that. I have a sick wife, so I have to go get the stuff for vegetable soup. And I'm looking outside going, fuck, it's raining and it's getting closer to 5 o'clock, and those are 2 tough combinations with where I live from the grocery store. Putting in work said there are 4 tight ends in this draft that I'd love to have. Stowers, Claire, Wright, and Koziol are all dogs. Randy said, in my defense, I did tell you I had nothing to do today, and I was ready to talk draft. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh, I know the kid you're talking about from Arizona State. I think I have him. Let's see. Let me see if I can pull up his. I'm not gonna lie. I saw all the. Yeah, he's borderline draftable for me. He's been good though. Max Ionaker. There's no N there. Is who he's talking about. I need to dive deeper on him. That's more of like a day 3. I'm not quite there yet. Kevin PR said you're maxing out Jeremy's pension in one stream. Putting in work said Jeremy also meets people's neighbors in a barbecue restaurant and talks to them about that player. Yes, I do. I will get information anywhere I can get them. R. Mason will get that Benito treatment. That was from Gary Birch. Putting in work said always here for the trip and to see Betsy again. I believe we will stay in that house again. That house was very convenient. And Randy L. with our final statement our final comment of the day. This reminds me of a tattoo artist offering a tap out challenge and me warning him he doesn't know what he's signing up for. Well, in fairness, it is October, not even to Halloween. I did sign up for an all you can draft live stream. 2 hours and 48 minutes. 2 hours and 48 minutes with one little break in the middle because Tank forgot to hit a button. And then they asked me to hit the button, and I went, I don't know how to hit the button. I don't even know where the button is. I appreciate all of you for joining. Tomorrow, mock draft. We're going to do some top 5s. We're going to do some fun stuff. It'll be the same thing as today. Tomorrow, I hope to have David Smith from Armchair Commentary with me. Potentially Bill Workman putting in work. And anybody else that wants to join in and talk a little draft, you just shoot me a message and we'll make this shit happen. For Tank Spencer, I'm Jeremy Green. This has been the Sportsocracy, talking random draft shit until Jeremy's voice gives out. We appreciate all of you. Randy Hill said, best podcast out there. Keep up the good work, Jeremy. I appreciate you, Randy. I appreciate you, Bill. I'll be in touch this evening, see if we can't get you on stream for tomorrow. Till then, everybody have a great night, and I will see you tomorrow.